baby.
Oh, my baby.
I am right. Oh, I'm very right.
Okay.
I got it right. See?
All right.
Baby amesema.
It's baby.
Okay.
What is it?
Sorry.
Huh? How are you, Ndu?
I'm fine, thank you. And yourself?
I'm very well, thank you.
Super duper.
Yes. We're not going to ask you. We can tell
We
you're
can
fine.
see. You know how the young cows skip on the countryside? That is how you came in today, CT. A cow that was just like hours old, skipping about
Let
on
me
the
tell you,
plains.
as I was driving into the compound, the song that I was listening to was by one Madilu System. Late lamented Madilu System, a song called Nzele. Goodness gracious me.
Oh, yeah, sing it.
I can't sing it. I don't know the words.
How do you like this?
Just do something.
Man,
Hum it.
that thing, it ignites your system. You feel
No wonder it's called
elated. The man knows how to get into your system. You almost want to, I actually did stop for a minute just outside the vehicle. Just to do like a small jig.
Something.
Actually, one of the gentlemen who works in that particular thing stopped and observed. I don't want to guess what was going on through his mind.
Right.
No, but that thing called for a small, just a
It needed to happen.
small
He
jig.
said, this is a happy man this morning.
Backward.
It had to have some yeah?
Eh,
Madilu system.
oh yes.
Okay. Did you dance this morning as well, Eric?
No. I wasn't listening to Madilu system as I came in.
Oh.
Nzele.
Wow.
See what I mean?
So that was it.
the antenna is up. Wow. Okay.
Sawa
Well done.
Sawa
Understood.
basi.
You're fine.
So it
though?
was a playlist you had this morning.
Buena. That playlist almost made me miss work. Actually, got caught up listening to that music. Anyway, muziki naingia ndani ya roho.
Taratibu.
It's the language of the heart. I have a question.
Ask please.
Karao, I understand is police. What's the connection? How did it
How did it
form?
sheng itself into?
How did it sheng itself into being?
I really wish I could help you there.
Okay.
I don't know either. Actually, the other day I was just thinking about how words morph into, the Sheng language. Sheng is not homogeneous.
No, it isn't.
It depends on where you come from.
Yes.
And that also then talks about the majority community in that particular area. So you may find that Sheng from Githurai is different from Sheng from another
Isili.
part of,
Okay.
Majengo.
But also remember, what we're calling sheng is what was often referred to as still is a slang. And many words or what constitutes slang, actually it emanates from people finding words that aptly describe their situation, something.
Exactly.
Yes.
And for most, I can find the correlation, but I'm really wondering then where Karao and what the connection would be. What experience or what thing is it then that people came up with this word Karao and like?
I will actually ask because as you're saying karao, let me just say that words with time begin, as he says, within a small homogeneous group, but it can spread out until it becomes the lingo of an entire geographical space like a country. Like the words shag. I'm going to shags.
Yep.
Or shago.
Get shaggy.
Get shaggy. See the evolution?
Yeah, you can see that clearly. Yeah. But this one stumped me. I really tried.
Think, for instance, how is it that pidgin originated? How did Creole? If you think carefully of the people who spoke the language, there are people who were probably brought by the slave masters. Now, they were listening to the slave masters speak whatever language they spoke. But remember, many of them could not read or write.
So they formed it for themselves.
Yes, so they more or less cobbled up what they were hearing. When you write something, you have an idea what its composition is. But when all you do is hear it, that is how you get to speak what you speak, because that's what you heard. Yes.
True.
And then with time, if you have enough body of people who do that, it actually becomes their language. So you'll be wondering, are they saying what you... It'll be a form of what you're saying, but the truth is it communicates more effectively with them. You only need to go to where this language you were speaking came from. and go to different parts of that particular island, and you'll be amazed at what each part considers English.
English, yeah, it's fascinating. It's fascinating.
Yeah. All right. So, welcome to the show. We have a number of things to discuss today. COVID-19 spreading in the country. We also know that Kenya is seeking to borrow some money, so we have that as well. We're looking at the advancement of technology, especially in the financial sector, in the financial services sector. So we'll look at Fintech and what Fintech is all about and how Fintech is then impacting our financial services sector, and a number of many other things to talk about. Let's begin where we always begin, and this is COVID-19 in numbers. Numbers continue to rise, and we keep losing more and more doctors and more Kenyans to the virus.
This is true. We're looking at a low number comparatively yesterday. 413 new cases in Kenya with 12 new deaths yesterday. Also looking at the fact that the number of tests that were done to arrive at this 413 was considerably lower than it was in the last few weeks, right? So cumulative tests in the country so far, excuse me, are at 843,103, inching closer to 1 million tests in the country. So 413 more cases yesterday from a sample of 3,489, whereas previously we're looking at samples of upwards of 6,000. So the sample test drastically reduced from 6,610, which were collected on the 22nd of November, out of which there were 986 positive, to now 3,489, where 413 were found positive. So the positivity rate for the disease in the country stands at 11.8%, compared to 14.6%, which was recorded on Sunday. We're going to have to see what those numbers will look like today. But still, almost 2 times above what is considered a safe positivity rate of below 5%. Okay? So a total of 1,180 patients were admitted in hospitals across the country, while 7,142 are said to have been under home-based care. 52 patients are in the ICU in Kenya, and 32 are on ventilator support, and 16 on supplemental oxygen. Is what we're looking at around the country. This is interesting, and it might get your knickers in a twist. In a report which was now concluded from October, the Ministry of Health has stated that lack of fuel was a hindrance to rapid response and timely evacuation of COVID-19 patients. So we're talking about ambulances moving from point A to point B. And they did not have the fuel to do this. And it was also affecting contact tracing and referrals from home-based care to hospitals for treatment and surveillance of the disease. So there is a setback in all of this. So there's a number of problems that we're looking at here in terms of adequate testing when it comes to reagents, and then in terms of space across the country, and now fuel to be able to shuttle people back and forth.
This is a report by the Medical Practitioners and Dentists Council. This is the one that basically regulates this sector. And in October, we are still talking about lack of well-equipped, dedicated lab services, reliable transportation, long turnaround times for sample collection and results is a weak link in the effective management of this pandemic.
Yes.
That is where we are at.
Do you wonder why it is?
And we are still, the council recommended that the ministry should facilitate counties seeking accreditation and certification for COVID-19 lab testing capabilities.
Now, do you wonder why I came to the conclusion that we have very many people in very many places who really are incapable? It's not that they don't want to. Well, no reasoning here. Just if someone has a job that they should do and they don't do it, okay, what conclusion do you come to? And it isn't, once you can call it a lapse, you can call it, they were not facilitated, but if it's a continuum, it's the norm. The not doing it is the norm. Surely, should we not ask ourselves whether this is the right person for this particular job, honestly? Is that not a question we should actually entertain?
Yeah. This is where basically you just ask, nikisema wewe ni mjinga, nitakuwa nimekosea.
Eric, I am in full agreement. It was the impropriety of it. That's what I was saying. In the heat of the moment, the minister got upset, and justifiably so. However, having said that, there are things, in all honesty, you don't do. Even if that person is, in all honesty,
All mujinga.
yes, a summation and a culmination and an addition plus, yes.
Okay. Now that the minister has calmed down, I would urge him to repeat that statement quietly, softly, and to the same person. This is not heat of the moment. This is basically asking a very honest question.
And not in public.
Asking a very honest question. Nikisema wewe ni mjinga. Nitakuwa nimekosea kweli. If we are to ask the same of the council is recommending the ministry should facilitate counties seeking accreditation, this is where we are at this point. Right?
So let me ask you this question, Eric. So are we saying then that when someone who has some very serious responsibility, we don't know the history, how many times the minister and this particular person had communicated, there are many things we don't know.
But I'm not even on. I'm not on the minister and the person.
Oh no.
I'm actually on the present.
Oh no,
I'm applying that thing.
I'm also on the present, and I'm thinking that where you may have a valid point, this is me agreeing with you here, on this point only, that sometimes shaming someone may be the best thing to do. This is really where I was going with this. Yes. There are times when people need to be shamed, because the opposite is to cover up, if indeed it was, incompetence and inability to do what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So sometimes simply telling someone point blank in the full glare and the full hearing of everyone that you are very many eggs short of a dozen.
What you're doing here clearly portrays a lot of things about you.
Nonsense.
Aya, Ati, Uganda, Yuko, the rest.
Oh,
Rwanda, Ghana. Let's look at the ones that have elections.
all right. So let's look now at Uganda. And we saw that there was still looking at an average of about 300 new cases every day. If we look specifically at the numbers that they had yesterday. So now, a total of 18,165 cases in Uganda. Yesterday, if we look at the caseload that was reported, Uganda reported 197 new cases and 9 new deaths, taking that number slightly higher. The day before, they were at 304 and 17 new deaths. So still relatively low numbers. An election coming up there, so it seems that COVID is one of the things that has been put on the back burner. Ghana, like we had looked at before, also elections coming up in December this year. 50,941 cases total in Ghana. The numbers that they recorded yesterday were 67 cases, and we know that. Interestingly, the campaigns as they go on, like we had noted before, they continue to ask people to be extremely careful when it comes to all that you can do. Social distancing, washing your hands, wearing a mask. And they've been able to keep their numbers relatively, and I'm going to insist on the relatively low, in the last couple of weeks. They've opened schools. They've not closed since then. They've not seen a major spike as to new infections as they did before. They're not seeing deaths from COVID. All right, so... that is where they are. So the world numbers now, we are looking at a total of 59,509,905. So a mixed mash of 5s, 9s and 0s there. 1,401,827 deaths worldwide. And 41,152,395 having recovered. Okay? So that's what the world numbers look like. Some countries really grappling with this, be it India, Brazil, or France, now having risen by 100,000 cases in the last 3 days in France. Russia also, Spain as well, and the UK and Italy climbing up there. So the first 11 countries in the world have above 1 million cases each. That's what we're looking at. And the United States has a combination. So the United States is at number 1. The cases the US has is a combination of the cases between numbers 2 and 11.
Okay. These are active cases or total cases?
Total cases.
All right. How many active cases in the US?
Active cases in the US are 4,964,546. So about a third of the total cases are currently active.
17 minutes after 6. Let's take a break. we want to start off with taking a look at the weather, and then we look at the headlines. The live stream is up. Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, www.spicefm.co.ke. You know the drill. Say hello to us. We say hello to you. So let's take that break and then we'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Spice FM, Malindi.
It has been a tough year for your business, hasn't it? But you hung in there. You pressed on. You persevered. And now it's time to rise up. It's time to get ready, to get going, to get selling. And Google is here to help you rise up. Get free training and tools to help your businesses adapt and grow online. Visit g.co/Grow Africa to start now.
Okay, a bit of a drizzle in Nairobi this morning. Mostly cloudy at 18 at the moment. We'll go to highs of 26 today. Into Nakuru, where it's mostly cloudy at 15, highs of 24 and lows of 15. Mostly cloudy conditions in Nyeri at 13. At the moment, we'll go to highs of 24. Clear skies in Eldoret this morning. It's a bit chilly at 12, highs of 24. And it's partly cloudy in Kisumu at 19 degrees. Highs of 28 today. 14 degrees is the current state of affairs in Kakamega. That'll be the low for the day, going to highs of 28. Light rain currently in Mombasa, 26. We'll see highs of 31 and lows of 25. It's 15 degrees in Malindi, considerably cool for a Malindi morning. We'll go to highs of 27 and the low will be 15. It's mostly cloudy in Kampala at 21, highs of 26, giving way to rain later and coming down to lows of 20. Light rain in Dar es Salaam at the moment, showers across the city, 25. Highs of 30 and lows of 25. It's 18 degrees and clear skies in Johannesburg at the moment. We'll go to highs of 26 and lows of 17. It's raining in Lagos at the moment at 27. Highs of 32. It's going to be a warm day and lows of 25. Kinshasa is clear this morning, giving way to rain later. Highs of 30 and lows of 22. Looking across to Beijing at 5 degrees. Sunny conditions all through. Highs of 7. It's sunny, but it's cold. Below freezing will be the low today at -2. Clear skies in Paris at 5. Also, as the winter sets in, we'll see highs of 9 and lows of 4. Cloudy conditions in London at 12, going to highs of just that, 12 and lows of 10. And we're finishing things off in New York for now. Clear skies at 7 on Monday night. Highs of 15 and lows of 5.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Everything nice.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Who is online?
Okay, Delvin Jones says, good morning, enjoying the show. Sekika Eddie Amuti. Good morning, guys.
Sekika Eddie Amuti. Right.
He's tuned in from a place I cannot pronounce.
Try.
Hoima Kiriatete West.
Hoima Kiriatete West.
So are you looking for an abbreviation? Call it West.
Okay. That place, Sekika is tuned in from there. Tuned in from Mombasa is Robert Mbogo, and Adam Zakaria is watching from Kumasi in Ghana. Moses Gashari is tuned in from Juja and is saying sad. Kenyans will give their signatures for referendum and doctors, nurses and volunteers will die. Bade Ash is tuned in from
Priorities,
Machakos.
brother, priorities.
I know. Bade Ash is tuned in from Machakos, and Titus Mbeta tuned in from Kaimosi in Vihiga County. Mohammed Hassan Ali is watching from somewhere, he says.
Somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere on the map.
Undisclosed location.
Exactly.
Right.
Shirag Mwai is tuned in from the commuter train in Roiro en route. And Alex Mbogo, good morning.
Oh, Sharaga, you've already boarded that train.
Yeah, Shirag is on the train already.
Please update us when you get to town. Hoping that, assuming that you're actually coming to the CBD. So let us know how it is.
Yeah, tell us how it goes.
Sindio.
And Bob was
Okay.
tuning from Nyeri. He's been listening every day for a year.
Who's that? Who's in Ghana?
Adam Zakaria, tuning from Kumasi.
It's about 3 a.m.
Yes, it's 3:22
Wow.
in Ghana at this point.
And you imagine somewhat that we are the only ones who wake up at that ungodly hour.
This one has not slept.
Hasn't gone to bed yet.
Yes. Not yet bedtime. City, what is today's proverb?
Today's proverb is actually a fairly simple and straightforward. Okay? A lie has many variations. A truth, none.
Truth is the truth.
It's the truth.
Is the truth.
Okay. A lie has very many variations.
Very many.
Yeah. Ni sawa basi. Let's look at the headlines. Many things.
Should I start?
Yes.
By the way, just as you're pondering on what among
where
the
to
many
start?
things you want to say,
Eh.
let's talk a little bit about just COVID and the advances that we are now seeing. With the vaccine happiness information that we've received of late, there's a slight interest that should we say arrested my attention.
Uh-huh.
One is how the vaccines that we're now being told in the West, remember the other vaccines elsewhere, okay, that we are not being told of in great detail. If you look at Pfizer, who came up with the great hooray moment, and it is a hooray moment, one little catch. That particular vaccine has to be stored minus 70 degrees. Minus. Okay? Now, their buddy, Moderna, they say, well, it's just a minus 30 degrees, normal temperature of a freezer. Now, the minus 70 is actually colder than winter in Antarctica. However, the Oxford Zeneca vaccine, temperature, normal fridge temperature. So essentially, one is easier to store, which means it's also easier to transport.
So the Oxford one is ours. Eh?
That one is ours. And also, the Oxford one, yes. By the way, studies are actually being conducted in Kenya with that same group. But this one also, not only are they saying that they are willing to roll out, but their costs are also reasonable. They are not exorbitant.
Around how much would it come to?
When I say affordable, so you wait until they tell us it's how much. Surely even you.
When they say affordable, they're not like putting a range?
No.
It's going to be below 1,000.
They do mention, but remember, one of the things that is happening now is when you make this announcement, you're saying what we've understood as of now with the studies we have done, our preliminary findings are these. You then take all these results that you have and you give it to the authorities who manage the process of authorizing the usage of these things on human beings on a large scale. Now, until they have gone through the work and ascertained it, there are certain things they'll be speaking out of turn. So all they can say is, yes, they've gotten some permissions to use them in emergency cases, but let these bodies now do due diligence and then tell us what it is that they think. Yes.
Good news. And with this one now, this one we can accept. It's a disease that's being introduced to your body, and it will know that you can get COVID.
It will know.
This one, unlike that other one from America, this one is possible.
And also, they tried it with a half a dose, and it was 70% efficacious. Then they tried with a full dose. Now that
You went to 140.
No.
Wow.
Eric, I think, is confusing this discussion with what the odometer in his vehicle reads and the speed he'd
If
like
half
to
is
attain.
70,
Full is
double.
140. Okay, well done. Good job, Eric.
90. Do the maths.
Please,
Okay.
don't-
Sour.
So,
I know where to start.
See?
the beginning.
It's called jump starting.
Okay. So, the DCI has revisited the past.
Ouch. It's an ouch, isn't it?
It looks like an ouch moment for a number of people. But okay, let's see. 12 years later, DCI boss Kinosi fires warning as he reopens the probe into the 2007-2008 post-election violence cases. Going on to another bullet point, claims 118 people have recorded statements. And he says action necessitated by fresh threats So there are fresh threats that have come about, and this is why he has gone now into reopening this investigation. Leaders dismiss the move as political and aimed at stoking ethnic animosity, and others call for full implementation of the WACI and KNCHR reports. Okay, so if we look at the details of this story, Kinoti says 118 victims of election violence have recorded statements amid claims that they were receiving fresh threats. Yesterday, along Kiambu Road, the cases include those who lost members of their family, property, or were displaced. DCI boss George Kinoti said the move, coming 12 years after the country recorded one of its darkest moments, was sparked by threats that the victims had been receiving in the recent past. He said his office received a complaint on the 15th of September that some individuals had started profiling certain communities, causing fear among the victims. I quote, "We went there for 3 weeks to investigate. The locals confided in us that they were receiving threats," Kinoti said while addressing the victims who were recording statements yesterday. "The government has given us firm instructions that what happened in the past should not happen again." He said detectives would prepare evidence and prosecute the cases locally. "We will take action," he said. "Those who were afflicted, we asked them to come and record statements." When asked why the cases were being revived 12 years later, Kinoti said criminal cases were never closed and that perpetrators who committed heinous extremism will face the law. So the assumption was that 2007, 2008 came and went, and everybody got over it, went through a healing process. But as far as he's concerned, the criminal element of these cases did not come to an end, which then gave them the leeway to open them at any time. So anybody who was coming and asking questions about 12 years later, there's no statute of limitations here. It's the criminal cases. We didn't close them, so it gives us the right to open them at any time.
And
this was further moved by the fact that there were fresh complaints about threats coming to certain people.
So they went to ascertain whether these threats had
were
merit
founded
or
exactly.
not.
And they found that
how many people have
18.
recorded?
Yes. And according to him, there's a possibility of more who would come forward. And that's why he now made it open and said, look, we've heard from 118 people. Possibility of them being more is very high. Come forward, tell us what it is, and we will investigate. We will not allow this kind of thing to happen again. We'll investigate what is going on currently, and we will tie it to 12 years ago if we need to.
The thing is, if we were to follow the law, this logical conclusion, what the DCI is doing is correct. However, the timing of it.
2 years to an election.
I'm not reading tea leaves here. I'm simply saying, or entrails, I'm simply saying that when you look at the timing of it, there are those who will say very directly that this is aimed specifically at the deputy president because it's in his neck of the woods that these issues that we keep referring to occurred.
Well, can I just help you out with that? On the Twitter space yesterday, Honorable Alice Wahome tweeted, "For 12 years, there were no complaints, no complainants and statements, and no action from the DCI. Suddenly, over 70 people today recorded statements on post-election violence." And she goes on to clap. "DCI Kinoti would be tempted to congratulate you, but oh no, there is a sinister, evil plan you have hatched." Aaron Chariot went on to say, "Very shameful of DCI Kinoti to weave his unending political tales into victims of 2007 post-election violence. He cannot claim to have the capacity to do a better job than the KNHRC and the WACI team." And then Kimani Chungwa says, "One would honestly sympathize with DCI Kinoti, the political circus and shenanigans he's taken through by these political brokers and conmen, from the fight against corruption to now an attempt to drive ethnic animosity in the rift to rescue BBI. Come on, a little intelligence."
When we say all these things, we must remember that there are people who lost their livelihoods.
Yes.
There are people who lost their family. There are people who lost their property. There are people whose life has never and will never be the same.
And never saw any justice.
Because of what happened in 2007, 2008. And I wish we could get to a point where we can actually hold the DCI to account for, now he's saying that he's open an investigation. Hold him to account and say, take this to its logical conclusion. if indeed that you have opened up this investigation and you want to find out what happened in 2007, 2008, don't stop.
Do it.
Do it.
Don't make it a political broom.
Do not. Because those who are speaking this way, I mean, everybody who had this were like, okay, so really, now, really, so you're opening up. Are you sincere about this? And the victims of that post-election violence would really want sincerity. Because games have been played, they have never really gotten the justice that they deserve. Never. They need answers, and we should get to a point where they get answers. These games being played by whoever plays games should stop. The DCI is an employee of the people of Kenya. The DCI has every right to open up these investigations, but the DCI should also be very, very sincere about it and very 100% committed to conclude it. If he isn't, just shut up. Go ahead and just start looking for other people who have done other things.
Because in all honesty, as people are talking about opening old wounds.
Yes.
Yeah,
Those
because you're going to
wounds,
give people
those
hope.
wounds never healed.
Those wounds are there.
You're not opening them up. They have been there for the
What
longest
you're just doing
time.
now is you're adding some salt into it.
You know, if you read about the 2007, 2008 violence that we saw, well, you will relate to something you've seen on Netflix or you've read somewhere. This was not a joke.
It was a reality for very, very
wasn't.
many people.
It was not a joke.
When people try to tell us it was spontaneous, it was, therefore it was just
That
a
thing was not
one-off,
spontaneous. It wasn't spontaneous.
People suffered.
That thing was planned, it was plotted, and it was executed. Spontaneous things don't happen in that manner. They do not.
27 minutes to 7. Time for us to take another break. Take a look at the traffic, and then we look at more headlines in the papers. Good morning.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM.
Next week on the Great Kenyan Bake Off,
Mama, I done made it.
it's Bread Week, and the last 5 bakers are out to prove that they have what it takes to get to the semi-final.
I love it.
It's a race to the finish as they knead, knock, and proof their way through a wild technical challenge. Catch a slice of the action as the bakers deliver on a cheesy signature, and we find out who will rise and who will bite the crust.
Ooh la la.
I'm pretty happy with that.
It's perfect.
The Great Kenyan Bake Off, brought to you by Unga Limited, inspiring a nation to bake.
In the face of COVID-19, life has been adversely affected, with nearly all schools in Kenya lacking basic hand-washing facilities, affecting more than 19 million children. Together with Davis and Shatliff and True Black, we, the Standard Group, have partnered to collectively unite other corporates and individuals to join the initiative towards setting up basic sanitation facilities around the country. For more information, send an SMS to the short code 40616 or email standwithkenya@standardmedia.co.ke. Time to come together for tomorrow. It's our future. A partnership by Davis and Shatliff and True Black and the Standard Group.
Okay, so let's look at what the roads look like this morning. It's already building up on Mombasa Road. We expect this from around the SGR and then moving down towards General Motors and out that way. Reduced traffic as folks are using the commuter train this morning. It doesn't stop the traffic that's building up on Thika Road, however. As you get into the CBD, you're moving slowly then from the Pangani underpass. Let's move out and see Forest Road is looking pretty good. That you can use. There's some traffic building up on Limuru Road coming out from past the village market and then throughout past Aga Khan. It's moving slowly, snaking along into the city centre. You can use Forest Road to then go roundabout and get into town. That's an option that people are seeing that they can use this morning. So it's not too bad there. It's building up then also on Hulu Highway just a little bit as you're trying to get into the CBD. Now it's looking good. In about half an hour or so may not be the case, but we'll keep an eye on that for you. So expressway construction is going to affect traffic on Thika Road. That we know already. So if you're not out yet, you might want to wait it out for some time before you join Mombasa Road. All right. Let's look at other parts of the city in a bit. Let us know also what you see. Talk to us on Spice FMKE on Twitter. Text us as well on 40127.
spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
It was coming from Ruiru.
It's on the way.
Okay. All right. So hopefully it should be in town by 7:15. Hi. Today is Tuesday. So on Tuesdays, the Standard has the financial standard. Today, it looks at how the last mile project pitched Kenya Power into financial darkness. Now, between 2003 and 2020, we have moved from 686,000 people connected to electricity to 7.2 million people connected to electricity. This is because of a last mile project that was implemented by this particular administration, and also the Kibaki administration had done that as well. Now, new electricity connections registered the highest growth in the current decade when the current administration started implementing this last mile project, which lowered connection rates to 15,000 shillings for new consumers within 600 meters of a transformer. They saw new additions to the grid peak at 30.5% in 2015, a trend that has been sustained over the last 3 years. Okay, now this brings in the issue of why then Kenya Power is not able to make money, because the current MD, says that majority of the new connections are for domestic rural consumers under the last mile program. This consumption is on average about 6 units per month, which explains the low revenue. So the people who have been connected, this millions of people who've been connected to the grid, their consumption is so low, and yet even the cost of connecting them was also reduced by order of the government. So spent a lot of money connecting people and not even getting that much in return. Many people are not even able to pay this for power, and this are stories that have come from across the country over the years. The Energy PS engineer, Dr. Joseph Njoroge, who was a Kenya Power MD in the Kibaki administration, says, you know what, we know that this is a private entity, okay, with some government shareholding, and forcing them to do this would have been against any logical business sense. However, the government has some social welfare obligations, and we know that projecting, because of what we have seen, why does a company connect low-income households? There is a correlation between power consumption and the growth of any economy. Markets with a high per capita consumption of energy tend to post high growth in their GDP. That's what he's saying. In future, we are likely to see Kenya Power making money because of the kind of economic activity that is spurred by availability of power in these areas.
If they're doing so badly, why don't they just fold up? I mean, technical jargon to explain the inefficiency and incompetence of people who have been given the mandate to do their job doesn't cut it. Page 6 of the Business Daily. Kenya Power hides prepaid bills details. When you get your bill, usually there are explanations as in details of what it is you're actually paying for. And these things, this is what they provide for. Value-added tax, EPRA levy, inflation adjustment, water regulator fees, as well as foreign exchange and fuel adjustment charges. Okay. Now, it is being reported that that isn't happening for people who have prepaid. And even when they ask for these details, they are not given those details. Now, if it is that in the past they gave the details, that's why there's the issue. If they never gave them, the discussion would be different. Why is it that someone is not privy to how it is that this charge that is being levied is actually figured out for them? And why also are they not being told how it is they have consumed this power which they have paid for, so that they understand?
So basically, you don't get the breakdown of what you've bought. You just told this is what
it costs.
This is your token number, blah 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 blah. The amount you've bought is this, and these are the number of units. And then this also changes. Somebody had posted a message like this a couple of days ago as well on social media, where they had asked KPLC why their consumption, well, they used to buy tokens. X number of tokens would get you X number of units. So they were asking, so how come this has reduced? Oh, you know what? You've moved from the category of this consumer because you've noticed that you've been consuming this amount. So now you're in a different category. So because of moving into a different category of consumer, it's more expensive. Yep. You're actually categorized as a consumer. Depending on where you are, your power bill is different.
Sure, the rates are not the same
number of
across
units.
board.
Yep.
Yeah. So even for prepaid customers, you could buy a certain amount, and if you're a certain area, you buy for 1,000 shillings. What you get if you're in point X is not the same that you would get if you're in point Y, according to
And this is information in the public domain?
Oh, yes.
And
Absolutely.
Kenya Power has been informing people about this?
They don't care. This is the explanation that they would give you. That you were in a certain area, and because of the zone in which you are, you're either paying less for power or you're paying more. And it sounds fair to them for some obscene reason, I don't know. It sounds fair to them that you spend the same amount of money, but in some places you get less power than others.
You know, this is the thinking of an entity that has monopolistic powers. As you say correctly, they actually don't care.
No, they don't.
They will explain to you what they think they need to explain
That
to you.
explanation that they've given to you,
Now you figure out whether you understand what they're telling you
whether
or not.
you like it or not, that's not their business.
Yes, and if you
Whether
don't pay, they
you
will
won't have power.
disconnect you.
Yes.
So the issue actually now about not breaking down is with the prepaid and postpaid as well.
Prepaid.
Yes.
Prepaid.
Even postpaid, because I'm seeing a reading here. This is when this was earlier, I think in October, yes, and they'd received a bill, and it said current bill dated 26th of October 2020 is as follows: active meter, current reading is this, previous reading is that, billed units this, fixed charge X, fuel cost and levies this, taxes this, adjustments X, bill monthly bill is this, previous bill balance was this much, so the outstanding bill. So previously they would do that. The same person has received a bill on the 21st of November and says, for your account X, your billing date of 20th of November, current reading this, previous reading that, units bus, bill X number of shillings.
Yes.
That breakdown of adjustment, fuel cost and levies.
But it follows hot.
hidden.
Remember, not very long ago, and we're talking about, there were complaints that Kenya Power had deliberately, given preference to expensive thermal power over cheaper options such as geothermal, hydro, effectively setting up consumers for higher electricity. Now, this is something we've talked about here on many occasions.
I still argue about that point, though. How much of electricity being supplied by Kenya Power is actually generated from the thermal? How many thermal generating companies do you have?
How many thermal
Yes.
generating powers do we have?
Yes. How many thermal generating companies do we have? So you've got the one on Thika Superhighway, there is a Thika Power. On down Mombasa Road, there is Gulf Power. In industrial area, there is the big one that has been there for a number of decades now. How many of those and how much power are they feeding into the grid compared to how much power you're getting into the grid from hydro, from solar, from geothermal, and from wind in Turkana?
All right, why don't I read it out for you so that you can understand it. KenGen, which had a reduced output from geothermal, said it had given Kenya Power some 499.7 megawatts, but only 410.3 megawatts had been taken up, leaving 89.4 megawatts of geothermal power unused. Okay? Now, even as we discuss this in detail, Eric, the problem is not even what we're saying here. The problem is in the contracting. Because Kenya Power doesn't seem to want to come out and say, look, we have a contract that was signed with some of these producers, and this is what the contract states. Because how else do you explain all this information that keeps coming up and it seems to crisscross? It doesn't seem to make sense. How?
That's why I say we always need to get into the bottom of this information, because information will fly and you'll be told, oh, there's contracting here, that's why you're not getting power, because all the power that you're getting is thermal. How much of that? If you started now, we've said 410 megawatts is geothermal. Yes, the 89 megawatts was produced and not taken up.
Actually,
how much then do we get from hydro through KenGen? How much do we get from Iberafrica, Gulf Power, and Thika Power? And what is it that you would say? What are the details of this contract? Does
Actually-
it say that you shall take a minimum of 10 megawatts?
This is something
Because
that Kenya Power should respond
even
to.
for KenGen, there is a minimum.
This is something that Kenya Power should respond
Yes.
to.
They should.
They should. I'm not going to struggle. No, I honestly am not. The details are before me, but I'm not going to argue that point. Let Kenya Power explain how this thing works out. And how, if it is true, we end up with the more expensive power, or how we end up with more expensive power, and how the consumer ends up with more bills. Just explain it.
I'd actually question the person who writes a story like that and says, this is how you end up with more expensive power. Explain it.
You know, something.
Because the person who's writing it is the one who's advancing that idea, that we are buying a very expensive power. And so show me how we are buying expensive power and why. What have you unearthed from your
By
investigations?
the way, Eric, the explanation that was given by the top officials of Kenya Power lends itself to explaining how it is. You see, households got connected. They can't pay for it. It means they consider it expensive, all right? But if you look at our bills, how often do our power bills actually reduce?
I don't know
Rarely.
if I've ever seen something.
Very rarely. What
Very
I'm saying
rare.
is an article of this nature would lend itself to anyone who consumes power to believe that indeed I am being charged
more than I should be.
because power bills go up and they go up and they go up. And even more importantly, every once in a while you get a bill and you actually ask yourself what on earth you've been doing in the same house you've been living in, doing the same things you've been doing. So you ask, what happened?
What happened?
Did we set up a small industrial park at the back of the house without my knowing? Now, Kenya Power are best placed to respond to all these questions.
They are.
Indeed, and they should.
Yes.
They should. They should, in fact, come in to explain all those things. 12 minutes to 7. Let's take another break. And then we look at other headlines. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room broadcasting on Spice FM online, Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, and spicefm.co.ke. That's our website.
It has been a tough year for your business, hasn't it? But you hung in there. You pressed on. You persevered. And now it's time to rise up. It's time to get ready, to get going, to get selling. And Google is here to help you rise up. Get free training and tools to help your businesses adapt and grow online. Visit g.co/Grow Africa to start now.
Spice FM, Malindi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
KNUT has said now, Wilson Session. I don't know. I don't understand. He says one thing and then he says something else. So now he's annoyed. So he says schools will not open until certain things are done. He wants teachers paid salary arrears and those due for promotion upgraded. The Kenya National Union of
Teachers. About COVID. That's okay then. Then he hasn't changed you.
Wait now. Let me give you the details. The Kenya National Union of Teachers, KNUT, has listed a raft of demands it says must be met ahead of schools opening in January 2021. This as KNUT Secretary General Wilson Session roped in the office of the President and 4 cabinet secretaries in the ensuing conflict between the teachers' employer and the union. The National Intelligence Service and the Umbrella Union Organization of Trade Unions, KOTU, has also been sucked into the long-running trade dispute between KNUT and the Teacher Service Commission. In a letter dated the 13th of November to the TSC CEO Nancy Macharia, Session pitched a case for industrial action, making reference to a series of letters between the union and the TSC. He has also listed a number of correspondences between the union and the Salaries and Remuneration Commission and tagged several top government officers in the action. So he's not a happy camper right now. And he has said to them in the letter, basically, that you have strictly 3 weeks to remedy all these failures, of which the union shall take stern action against you, as provided in Article 41 of the Constitution, without any further reference to you. The thrust of the complaint is implementation of the collective bargaining agreement and negotiations between KNUT and TSC. So yes, they have not listed COVID as an issue here. There are many things which they said, regardless whether they're opening schools or not, we will not open. In a rough notice to TSC yesterday, Sosion and all these teachers under its register must be paid, said that they must be paid salary arrears for the duration they were denied pay increase. He also called for immediate promotions of all KNUT members who were due for upgrades but were denied opportunities for belonging to the union. So remember, there was this rift between TSC and the union, and those teachers who were on the union side essentially were not upgraded in terms of promotion. So there's this.
The demands are about teacher welfare.
Yeah. About teacher welfare. It doesn't have anything to do with COVID, at least not on the top of it. Okay. Right? So he's saying that these are the demands. All the CBAs for 2017-2021, the CBA should be reinstated, and all teachers should be paid all their salaries, including the additions. And all teachers locked out of the progressions should be promoted. And they should comply with all court orders. All seems to be the operative word here. And restore full KNUT register and procedurally commence the 2021-2023 collective bargaining agreement.
I haven't said a thing because out of respect for you.
Me?
Yes.
I do not want to impute improper motive on the part of NAT Secretary General, but I can clearly see why he was championing for the reopening of schools.
So that he could close them again?
No. It brings him an opportunity. It gives him a platform to push their demands. I mean, if the school's closed, what are you going to say? Pay teachers. Pay teachers for what?
Teachers for what? They're not in school.
Yep.
Now they've opened. They said, okay, you want us to go back?
He has basically found a platform for relevance. And this is it. This is why he was saying, no, we are ready. Let's open the schools.
Even when he knew.
Yes. So the forces that we're talking about that were then pushing for the reopening of schools.
They're coming out now.
This is it.
Is this man not a member of parliament?
Yes, he is. He's a nominated member of parliament.
And do we have records of him voicing these same issues that he's talking about in parliament?
Well, he's been vocal about. I don't know whether within the confines of parliament.
See where I'm going with this is,
I understand. Yes.
Saying what he's saying, he might as well just have switched on the recording device and said, "Now we're just upgrading it to today is the 4th? Yes. So this is for the 24th. Same thing. I expect someone who had the union to say such things, to give his people the clear impression that he is looking after their interests and their welfare. Now, we've heard. Put it aside. It's not a different story from what they have said at the beginning of the year, end of last year, the middle of last year. It's not different. All these things are pending. Right now, he can make as much noise as he likes. We do not have the money to do what he's asking because all he can do now is join the queue. Who else? Governors haven't received all the money they're supposed to receive, have they?
No.
Right now, we are teetering and tottering, and we're at a point where we may not be able to make our next payment for these many debts that we owe. And so we may be asking the World Bank and all these wonderful lenders to do something that would help us, like forgive us, forget it, shelve it, whatever it is. And then you come with your demands, and these demands involve money. Here we have a situation where we are asking whether the government has money to just provide adequate protection for health workers. None of these things can be quantified and said one is less important than the other. But right now, because of COVID, unfortunately, things to do with health take priority. Because this going back to school mantra that we're hearing will also put many people in jeopardy. We don't have to talk further about the number of head teachers, the number of teachers who have contracted COVID, people who are in hospital, those who have died. You open up schools so that everybody goes to school. That will happen. All right. Don't open schools because I said let's open them previously, but now let's not open them until we do this. Flip-flopping.
Wilson Sosion.
I tell you.
Let me take you to Tana River. In Tana River, during this COVID-19 period, a story has emerged. So, 3 sets of triplets, three girls, they are triplets. They, during this time, the 16-year-olds, they got pregnant. while at home during COVID-19. Pregnant at the same time. They went into labor around the same time in Garissa. They were taken to Garissa. Each of them delivered twins. So 3 16-year-old triplets deliver 3 sets of twins.
3 became 6.
Yep, just like that.
What are the odds?
So there's one side of that story, and then there's the other side of that story. In Tana River, I mean, people are just looking at them like, oh, yeah, there you go. 16-year-old, not a big issue.
No big deal.
Because this happens a lot in these counties, Tana River, Kilifi, Kwale. Thousands of girls usually end up getting forced into early motherhood due to a mix of outdated cultural practices, lack of knowledge and empowerment, poverty, robbing the girls of their innocence. In an interview with The Nation, the triplets recounted how the man responsible fled immediately after they told him that they were heavy with his 3 pairs of twins.
Oh, hold on a minute. It's the same guy who's pregnated these 3 girls?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. The girls revealed,
run?
they revealed that the man, who also worked in their home as a gardener, used to lure them inside the farm where he would defile them. One of the girls confessed to sneaking out at night on a few occasions to meet the gardener in his room. He used to give me pocket money and would sometimes buy me clothes. He was nice to me. I did not know that he was doing the same to my sisters.
So you say he was a gardener?
He was a gardener working for them.
Yes.
And then he would lure them into his cube.
So would you say that this is someone who perhaps had some knowledge of fertility? I assume when you're a gardener, you look after plants and you ensure that they flourish. This is bizarre.
Completely.
Absolutely bizarre. Take home message.
The only thing that was appeared strange to the mother never noticed anything, because nothing changed about the girl's behavior, apart from the younger one who had a new pair of shoes and a set of undergarments. Whose
How
origin
old are
she
these
couldn't
children,
explain.
Eric?
16.
The 16-year-olds.
They themselves were triplets.
Yep. And each of them has given birth to twins. All 6, same father.
So this gentleman now has 6 children.
Yep.
He does.
But he's taken off.
Under those circumstances, it may not be the children or the emergence of the children that has made him take off. You really think the mother of these children will look at him happily and smile?
Not.
No.
Of course not. The community will just look at him and think, come on, dude, you cannot do this to my girls.
No, and then you just say, it's okay, continue tending my garden. No lie. No.
All right, coming up to 7 o'clock, this is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. Keep it right here. We'll be having more and more conversations. What is it that's going to happen tomorrow with the BBI collection of signatures? And then we'll talk about COVID-19 and where our priorities lie. Good morning.
Sugar and spice and everything I know. Spice it.
Spice up your life. Traffic.
So the roads are a bit slippery with early morning rain happening in Nairobi today in certain parts, and so it's building up. Jogger Road, as we're looking at it, is not so bad. It's moving. Traffic is flowing not so badly as you approach the City Stadium roundabout and then trying to get towards industrial area or then going towards the city center. So that looks pretty good. We had a build up on Limuru Road trying to get into the center of the city as well. But Forest Road is providing a good way out of this because Forest Road is not too packed right now. Go roundabout and get into the CBD. Uhuru Highway then from the Nyeri Stadium roundabouts into the CBD as well, then heading to Westlands is moving slowly today. Uhuru Highway is going to have some problems as we see for the next couple of weeks. That we understand. It's building up on Mombasa Road as well, trying to get into the CBD all the way then from the SGR through to about General Motors, slowing down again past Bellevue. Okay, so this is what we see today. It doesn't look like too crazy of a Tuesday just yet. Likely to pick up in about half hour or so, when everybody will definitely be on the roads. So we're going to ask you to let us know what it is that you see. Remember, on Thika Road this morning, the service lanes rather, are your friends, and you can use the bypasses of the eastern and the southern to get in and out of town without too much of a wait. All right, talk to us on Spice FMKE, on Twitter, or text us on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
2.5 minutes after 7, this is Kenya's biggest conversation. It's a Situation Room. We thank you very much for joining us this morning, this lovely Tuesday morning, the 24th day of November. In the room, like you heard, is Eric Latif, C.T. Muga, and Ndu Oko. Let's begin, like we always begin, with today's proverb. And as we do that, we welcome our audience on KTN Home. Asanteni Sana for joining us. You'll be with us for the next 2 hours. C.T., proverb.
A lie has many variations. A truth has none. This particular proverb, I think, bears and carries a lot more weight today when I look at something that happened yesterday, and it's something pleasant report. The Mama Lucy Hospital CEO, Emma Mutio, yes, it's called Mama Lucy Kibaki Hospital, right?
Yeah.
Walked to freedom after 5 days in custody over allegations of being engaged in child theft syndicate. She was acquitted over allegations of child trafficking.
Basically, the prosecutors, the investigator said, we have nothing on her. So it's okay, let her go. Can you imagine? And it's actually not 5 days. It is, if you add the weekend, it's 5 official days. It is 7 days. 7 days in a police cell because investigators have arrested you and they're conducting an investigation to see whether you are involved in this particular racket. And then they go to court and like, we have found out that there's nothing. It's like the 7 days
Yes,
don't
but
matter.
No
really.
big deal.
Yeah, it's nothing. I mean,
you know, if I consider what the DCI boss was saying yesterday, was reported, and what was in the media and what was in social media, the DCI know their stuff. They know what to do. They know how to unearth these things. But more importantly, I was listening to what he said regarding their roles. It's not to arrest. They're supposed to prevent. The CEO of the Anti-Corruption Commission, Ethics Commission, told us the same thing. We don't hear of some of the things they do because they prevent many things from actually happening.
Yep.
Now, this child trafficking, I don't know of any place where it has been prevented. It is still going on. There are reports that they have figured it out. But what I would really like to know is who is really involved in all this. And it isn't one person. From the very top, the people in between, the Watuamkono, as we call them, whoever it is. Because if you're talking about an enterprise of this nature, it has a structure.
Of course it has a structure. If you just think about it, from that story by Nyeri Mwangi on BBC, there was a part of it where she showed this particular woman in the streets who steals children from fellow street mothers and then sells them off. This woman, according to that story, she is a drug addict. She's highly intoxicated, but she's very coherent. When she was interviewing Jerry, because Jerry was trying to see if it's actually possible to buy a baby, she was very, very, very coherent, and she could say, I am, so you are, and invest, and really asking Jerry questions. Who are you? Trying to establish whether you really are serious, whether you really can afford this child. Says, somebody had told me 50,000 shillings. How much can you afford? So Jerry comes out and says, I can pay 80,000 shillings. And then there's a structure. Okay, so let's meet tomorrow at this time. All right, I'll come back later at 5 o'clock. This is not a highly intoxicated person. This is somebody who knows what she's doing. And she's charging 80,000 shillings. Do you think that somebody who is just a street woman would actually be stealing and selling children for 80,000 shillings and still remaining on the street just like that and looking highly intoxicated and dirty? Absolutely not. That pointed you to there must be a network. There must be other people that she worked with.
That description that you've given, you know how some places of work require uniform? We are maybe describing her uniform for the work that she does.
For the work that she
Yes,
does.
she presents herself as this sort of, but that's the persona for that particular function. And when the day is up,
You'll meet her elsewhere looking very different.
I would say that it would then point to all the. This is why then for me it was quite painful that these individuals were held for the period of time that they were held. Because if what we are saying now, it is clear that this woman is part of a structure, a system. Somebody found her. You want a child badly enough, you will be able to find this contact, right?
Yep.
Somebody will be able to tell you, oh, right, there's somebody who can help you. If you call this number or you go to a certain place, you'll be able to find this person. It wasn't too difficult for them to find her. If it's not too difficult for you who wanted a child, for example, to find this woman, then it is also not as difficult for investigative authorities to do the same. Rather than holding people who it was very clear had nothing to do with this, at that particular point in time, you would have actually gone further and found this woman who was involved in this, and then you would have been able to track and trace whoever else was running this racket.
You know,
It would have been very possible.
It was. You see the discussion around this, and this is where now, in many cases, not this particular one, you could give the DCI the benefit of doubt, is that there are things they will know that we don't know. There are things they have seen, and for all we know, there's an investigation that is genuinely going on, and they want to get to the heart of it. But they can't, of course, tell us that this is what they're doing, because then it will defeat the very purpose of what they're trying to achieve. However, having said that, when you look at this particular case in point, and you look at the details about it, someone is 10 days old in the job. Now, so unless there is information we don't have, and that is what ought to have been provided, that when this person was at Mbagathi, wherever this individual was at, we had noticed that this is something that she was involved in, because even in Mbagathi, there are children. Okay? So following her up to this place, this is what we found. That information was not forthcoming. It had all the appearances of a knee-jerk reaction to, my goodness, there's heat on this subject.
Yep. So let's do something. Let's be seen to be acting. And that's very unfortunate. I mean, it's very clear that the police were reacting to the story by the BBC.
Yes.
It's very clear that even just going to arrest, they did not have any information on the individuals that they arrested at that point. They were gathering information as the people were languishing in police cells. And then coming out later to say, okay, so for these particular 3 individuals, we have nothing. We are going to continue charges on these particular other individuals. Do we even know for sure whether they have enough evidence against these people to commence charges against them? Or is it just going to be another one of those where you enter into the system, you get into the system and show, we opened a case on the child trafficking racket in Nairobi, and there's a case going on in court, and that's enough. We have people who have been charged. One of the people who's been charged was a former CEO who's now the Deputy Director of Medical Services in the Nairobi Metropolitan, promoted to Nairobi Metropolitan Services. Now, wewe ndani. Do we actually, can we have the confidence that, the people that they've been left with is, after thorough investigations, have revealed to them that there's something that they could hold against these particular individuals? Do we know that? Just the same way I'm looking at a story today of, in the papers, of the people who were arrested over the weekend over allegations of, still the same. The children who were caught in at a party somewhere in Mountain View, and a woman and several other people have been taken to court, and they're being held. They're going to be held for 10 days because of the same. Because the DCI says they are looking for 4 child trafficking and abuse suspects will be held by the police for 7 days to help complete a probe. A court allowed the police to detain Millicent Muthoni Kithenji, David Kibe Wamboi, George Kamau Muthoni, and Michael Morega at the Kabete police station as they probe whether they are linked to a syndicate exploiting children. The DCI came out with these statements over the weekend. Oh, there is a syndicate that's exploiting children, that is attracting them and luring them to parties here and there. And this is because a story had gone viral about a woman who had said, "My niece has gone missing. Please help me to track her down." These children are found somewhere at a party. DCA comes out and says, "There's a racket going on." Then a day later, they arrest some 44 children at a house party, and they arrest the owner of the house. And they say, "We want to establish that this is part of that racket." So if you've been telling us that there's a racket, what information do you have?
That would point to that.
Can you just say that because we found kids in a certain house, then this must be part of that racket that we've been working on?
Can we say it's just probably the use of language? Because you could say it's a trend. Because similar stories have emanated from Busia. You know, this isn't something that is happening in one particular part of the country.
It isn't.
But racket and that they're all connected? No. It's possible that young people share commonality in the things that they enjoy and what they'd like to do. And remember, a lot of the contacts that relate to these cases that we're speaking of are in social media. Parents do not spend as much time on social media as their children do.
Yep.
Simple fact. And parents also don't monitor what their children do on social media. They don't. Those who do are few, to the point where statistically they are really not worth mentioning. The vast majority who even think they do, you only monitor what those children probably allow you to monitor.
You know, the fact that the police were actually able to track those girls, the 6 girls, over the weekend and reunite them with their parents is commendable. It tells you that the police have the capacity. They have the capacity to track you down and get you wherever you are. Then they also have the capacity then to investigate and stop this. If there's any cartel that is stealing children, if there's any cartel that is luring teenage children into this kind of behavior, they have the capacity to do that. But when they go ahead and arrest people, you know, one arm of the police is just arresting people, taking them to court, arrest, take to court. I see a disconnect. I see a disconnect between these other police officers who spend, in fact, because you hear the stories of people who have gone to police saying, you know, my child has been kidnapped and there's someone who's calling and asking for ransom. And the kind of work that the police officers put into actually tracking down and reuniting that loved one with their family. There are officers who are seriously dedicated. Then there are other officers now who just, you know, have the pressure of push paper. Just push paper. What do we know? Arrest those ones. Let's take them to court. And then let's start investigations as those ones are languishing in police cells. There's a pain that you cause people that is unnecessary, that you could actually do your work without having to do that. The CEO of the Mama Lucy Hospital and the other people who were released yesterday have gone through some untold anguish.
And their families?
7 days, and you have never even been arrested for a traffic offense.
You've never committed one.
And then here you are now, you have been told child trafficking, blah, 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 go in. Even your own children watching the news wonder.
Who is this person?
Can you think of the trauma that this has taken their families through? These aren't pleasant things.
They're not.
You know, the question that I always raise, I have to raise again. Do we equip our police officers with the wherewithal to ensure that they do the job they're supposed to do well? Do we? Do we? Gone are the days when, remember there were days when they say, you call them, there's a problem, they say they don't have fuel. Now, so you ask yourself, and those are the days before M-Pesa. Okay, so if you don't have fuel, how exactly am I? I'm the one who has a problem, thieves at my door, or my house has been broken into, and I'm locked up in a room and I'm calling you, and you're telling me about fuel. How is that going to help my case? We don't hear of cases of fuel anymore. However, that question has to be asked. If we demand of our police service a certain level of competence, do we equip them? Do we ensure that they have been given whatever is required by the state to facilitate this thing that we demand?
If they were given, because I mean, I'm hearing us talk about then financial resources and things like that that they need, the amenities that they essentially need, the tools that they need to do their job. Would it stop such action?
It would go a long way.
Would it stop such action whereby you saw? I mean, it was clear to everybody. There was a major disconnect here with the trafficking, where it was clear to the human eye that you can actually go in, do a little bit more work, do a little bit more work and find the people who are actually responsible. It was there in the public view of everybody that there are these certain people, if they can be found in a certain area, you can go ahead and do that. But it would have seemed that there was a decision that was made here of bad judgment, of really, really poor judgment when it came to the arrest of these individuals. Now, would giving adequate resources, would giving the financial might that they needed, would it have made them, in this example, would it have made them make a different decision when it came to the individuals that they arrested? Because it seems to me here that it was everything to do with the mind as opposed to the resources that they would have had. Or do we say it's because they didn't have enough fuel to go into the Nungus where these people were, but they could just go quickly to Mama Lucy Kibaki Hospital and arrest the person who was sitting behind their desk? In this case, it was poor judgment.
Let me just read something so that you can understand why I keep bringing up this issue, all right? If you look at what police officers are supposed to get in terms of financial remuneration, okay? Police salary scale 2021, the year 2020-2021, all right? Assistant superintendent, 70,530. Chief inspector, 59,220. Inspector of police, 53,820. Senior sergeant. And the list goes on. What I'm trying to
It's
say,
getting more pathetic as you go down the list.
well, I can actually read out how pathetic it is. Senior sergeant, 50,000. Sergeant, 45,000. Corporal, 42,000. Constable, fresh graduate, 32,000. Now, there are those who will argue and say these salaries are commensurate with what other people in the public service earn. Yes, but what they do is not. What is required of them is not. They do what other people don't do, don't understand, can't do, and won't do. These are the people who, when someone dies and has been rotting in a ditch for God knows how long, go to pick up that body. It's not the hospital, they take the body to hospital. These are the people who, when there's an accident and there's a grisly accident and people are, they are the same people who go there. They're the people who are on the roads, whether it's raining or not. They're the people you call when you have a problem. Now, is this what you call adequate remuneration for people whom you've given such responsibilities? Unfortunately, if you give someone that sort of responsibility and there's this sort of gap, you know what's going to happen? They'll get creative on you.
So we see them. So what you're saying essentially is that because of the inadequate supply of resources that they need to get their, remuneration, not even resources and tools to get their job done, that what they're likely to do is to take the easy way out, to take the easy route. Why should I go into an area looking for someone whereby I can arrest a CEO who's sitting here in a hospital? Are we making the connection between the two? To say that because, somebody is poorly paid, that they're not going to think outside the box. They're not going to use their intelligence. They're not going to
I'm taking it
bother.
further, actually.
They're going to just say, rather than for me to go and look for and do a proper investigation, I'm just going to arrest somebody here. So it could be seen that I've ticked the box and do my job.
The investigation may even be done, but it's what it's used for. Because it's leverage. If what I want is more money, and the example is set perfectly for them by people who are in high offices in this country, how to solicit money. So if I have this evidence against you, I ask myself, I might take you to court and you may actually have the wherewithal to be able to get out of court. So how do I serve my interest? I present you with the information. And I present you with a proposition that would help you get out of this problem, which is clear. It's a problem and it's clear you're involved. I am not saying that this is what everyone does. I'm saying the opportunity is then presented when this is what you have.
I hear what you're saying, City, and I can understand, the issue of maybe a police officer not feeling properly remunerated or even compensated for the kind of risk that they put themselves out to on a daily basis. Then that's where the issue of that discussion about police reforms and looking at the welfare of police officers and seeing, how do you house them, because all those things have been discussed many times. There's one side of an argument which says, yes, you need to consider how then you treat your public servants in general, whether it's police officers, whether it's in the military, whether you're talking about doctors, whoever, and you look at, is this commensurate with the work that you do? And that's why we even have the Salaries and Remuneration Commission to come in and look and work on those things and consider. And the people who sit in the SRC and others in the Public Service Commission are people who understand these matters. They are people who are equally capable of actually reasoning the way you're reasoning. That is one side of an argument. There's the other side of an argument that then we say that we shall be held to ransom by public officers because they feel that we don't pay them enough for the work that they do. So therefore, they will not be doing their job in accordance with how the job should be done because they feel that they are tired and they are bitter because of how much they are being paid. There's that other argument, and that to me doesn't really hold water. And it shouldn't even be appearing anywhere that someone says, hii kazi hata silipwi mzuri, kwa hivyo hata siifanyi vile nafaa kuifanya. No. I think you should do your job the way you... As much as I feel what we are saying, I think it's important that somebody does their job well. And we are talking about this in the backdrop of what we've just been discussing. The people who are arrested and then released after spending 7 days in police cells, and then the investigator goes and says, I found nothing on this one, can go home. It's just like a sorting house. Come in, sit here, I see if I have anything against you. If I have nothing, then I just tell you go home. If I don't have, if I have evidence that I think can hold a case, then I present it to the prosecutor, and then the prosecutor now starts a case against you. There's how you're affecting people's lives.
For sure. And you know what?
There are many people in the system, and these stories have been written many times, of somebody who is languishing in a remand prison. And they have been there for years because they were arrested in this sort of manner. They got put into the system in the same sort of manner. Investigation started. They were made to take a plea. They were being told to take a plea. And they're like,
They
are
were
you
forgotten.
guilty? They were told, they said, I'm not guilty. Then they were told, all right, so remand. Next mention for your case, next year, April. Next year, April comes, something has happened. On that particular date, hearing doesn't take place. Maybe there's a new public holiday that has been announced. Maybe a magistrate has moved. Case moved again by another 4 months or so. Because this person does not have a profile, like Dr. Emma Mutio, who is the CEO of the Mama Lucy, which is a big hospital. Therefore, they get coverage. This other person does not have a profile. They come from a poor background. Their parents cannot even afford. Nobody in their family can afford to bribe a police officer, can afford to do anything, even pay for a lawyer for this particular person. There are many such cases in our remand prisons. People who've been swallowed up by the system, forgotten, and they have undergone proper injustice. And it's because of such cases. And that's why I feel pained when I see that somebody can be arrested on a Tuesday, taken to court. Police officer says, I don't have anything on them. I'm looking for evidence against them. Please give me time. And then you're held in a police custody. 7 days later, a police officer comes to court and says, I have nothing on
Actually,
this one. Just let them go. And it's all okay, you go home. It's okay, you go home. 7 days later. Can you imagine if this investigator had come and said, I have evidence against this person, and probably they don't have, you're made to take a plea because you believe and you know for sure you're not guilty. You say, not guilty. This is a serious case. It's child trafficking. Your life changes. You work for the government, immediate interdiction. You're not reporting to your workstation anymore. I mean, your life completely changes and is thrown out of the window, just because somebody with a stroke of a pen just decided, arrest so and so, release so and so. It shouldn't be that easy.
A child died, as is reported, in Mombasa. The father had been locked up. The usual infringement of curfew laws. Child fell sick. This is on page 3 of the Star. Because he was in prison and he was the only one.
So the father had been arrested?
Yes. The child couldn't go to hospital. It was something that could have been treated and the child been taken to hospital. And according to this report, the child died simply because they couldn't be taken to hospital. And the reason they couldn't be taken to hospital was because the father was in a police cell.
See?
So for me, the decisions that are being made or the options that are being taken are not necessarily because they're being paid a certain amount of money. It's not a decision that you take because, okay, well, they could pay me better and they're not. No, it's not because you're mad at the system. It's just because there's this general attitude of how the work is supposed to be done, and it's pathetic and it's mediocre and it's below standard. Can you imagine an investigative authority that has the power to decide what happens to the life of another individual is treating it in such a lackadaisical manner, like, okay, whatever. And here you are, a major part of the justice system rests on the decisions that the same individuals are going to make. Get this so that we can put it into perspective, right? These decisions that they made, all the hullabaloo and the hoo-ha, for 7 days, these people are in the cells. But guess what? Children are still being trafficked. Children are still being sold. While all this drama was going on, the drama has ended. Children are still being trafficked.
The drama has not ended. It's still going on. There are now several other officers who are going to face this particular change. And children are still being trafficked. 27 minutes after 7, let's take a break here. This is The Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. We are on Spice FM and KTN Home. And we are also live streaming the show, Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Let's take a break. We'll be back shortly.
This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Tomorrow on the Great Kenyan Bake Off,
Mama, I done made it.
it's Bread Week, and the last 5 bakers are out to prove that they have what it takes to get to the semi-final.
I love it.
It's a race to the finish as they knead, knock, and proof their way through a wild technical challenge. Catch a slice of the action as the bakers deliver on a cheesy signature, and we find out who will rise and who will bite the crust.
Ooh la la.
I'm pretty happy with that.
It's perfect.
The great
It has been a tough year for your business, hasn't it? But you hung in there. You pressed on. You persevered. And now it's time to rise up. It's time to get ready, to get going, to get selling. And Google is here to help you rise up. Get free training and tools to help your businesses adapt and grow online. Visit g.co/Grow Africa to start now.
Chilled Spice.
Okay, it's drizzling in some parts of the city of Nairobi this morning. We'll see highs of 26 today and lows of 18, dry in some parts as well. Mostly cloudy conditions in Nakuru this morning at 16. The high will be 24 and lows of 15. 15 and mostly cloudy in Nyeri, highs of 24 and lows of 13, and mostly clear in Eldoret at 12. That'll be the low for today with highs of 24. It's mostly clear in Kisumu at 18. We'll go to highs of 28. And in Kakamega, it's clear at 18. The lows will be 16 today with highs of 28. It's raining in Mombasa at the moment, highs of 31 and lows of 25, currently at 26. And it's clear skies in Malindi at 18, highs of 27 and lows of 17. Mostly cloudy in Kampala at 21 degrees, going to highs of 26 and lows of 20 today. Light rain in Dar es Salaam at 25, highs of 30. And Johannesburg is sunny at 18 with highs of 26 and lows of 17. The rain continues to come down in Lagos at 26, highs of 32 and lows of 25. And it's cloudy in Kinshasa with some rain expected later, highs of 30 and lows of 22.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. Traffic.
Okay, guys, so there was an accident today, and unfortunately, just a few minutes ago, there are 2 children who've been hit by a vehicle and unfortunately are still lying in the road waiting for emergency services to come. And this is high up on Mombasa Road, right around Mlolongo. So approach with caution, please, as you get to that. They're trying to sort that out at the moment. Nobody can touch for now. Syokimau Mombasa Road from the SGR to Cabanas is bumper to bumper at this point. And so if you're approaching and you see that accident, waiting for them to be picked up, but the children are still alive and waiting for that. Thika Road traffic starts at KCA heading to the CBD. It's moving really well though, not much of a problem there. Kiambu Road, yes, we know, is a mishmash already. And it's a bumper-to-bumper situation, then trying to connect with the Thika Superhighway. All right, looking at other parts, getting into the CBD, then from Westlands, not too bad. As you get to the University Way roundabout, coming off of Ngong Road, as you get to the city's mortuary roundabout, and then from Langata Road, you can connect to Bagavi Way. It's moving slowly, but it's moving. It's not too bad at the moment. All right, we'll take a quick look at this later For now, you see anything that we should know about and share, let us know. Spice FM KE on Twitter or text on 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
28 minutes to 8 o'clock.
Mornings done right.
In the Situation Room. Did our friend arrive?
Right, so Shurake now about 12 minutes ago was alighting at the Makadara station from the Nairobi commuter train or railway, Ruiru, and he has called it Ruiru Eagle. 10 minutes to the central station.
Called the Ruiru Eagle.
Yes.
10 minutes.
10 minutes from Ruiru to Makadara.
No. As in the next 10 minutes, they would be at the central station. So not so bad. About 45 minutes trip.
From Ruiru to
the CBD.
To CBD.
Whereas it would take you an hour and a half.
An hour.
Thicker super
An
highway.
hour and a half, 2 hours.
Depending on the time you're traveling.
Yeah.
You see, this particular one, it doesn't matter on the time. It's not competing with anyone for that space. It moves on its own.
Yeah. You were telling us about this child who died.
This gentleman is called Mumanyi. Lives in Mombasa. The COVID-related incident was this. It wasn't curfew. He was opening up his shop. Policemen came up to him and asked him, where are the sanitizers? He said, I'm opening up. I have sanitizers for my clients. He says, no, where's the washing basin? He said, no, the sanitizer does the same thing. But it's in here, I will get it. Now, according to this report, they would not listen. So they arrested him and they took him to Mbugoni police post. And they said, call your people so that they can come up with 1,000 shillings so that you can be released. While he was there, he was arrested for a total of 10 hours. His wife called that his 2-week-old baby was feeling unwell.
Okay.
So they kept him there. Time lapsed. The child died. What the child died according to the report, was pneumonia. All they required was hospitalization and they could have been normalized. So he was eventually released, but the child was dead. He is the sole bread.
He was released the same day?
Same day, after 10 hours.
Without paying 1,000 bob?
No. Well, that is not indicated. Whether he paid 1,000 bob or not is not indicated. But the child had died.
You know the kind of bitterness that person has with the officers?
And his relatives? And his friends? 2-week-old baby. So even those policemen who actually do what they're supposed to do and do it well, and incidents like this happen, they are represented adversely.
100%. This gentleman will never run into another police officer and that he will have it in his mind that these guys are actually here doing a good job for the country. It will never resonate with him again. And unfortunately, if you look at the attitude that a lot of people have towards the police, it is not because it could be that they had an experience, but it's often because of stories that you hear that other people went through, and then you take this and it becomes a reflection of everybody. It now becomes the attitude that's represented for all. For all people, it doesn't really matter who it is. Look, after all, my child died because you held me here on something that you could have released me over. My child died because of that. There is nothing you'll be able to tell this person that would make them think something totally different.
You cannot.
So people have an idea of a force, like you say, unfortunately. People have an idea of a force because of an experience that one individual may have had, which is true, it is unfair, but at the same time, you have to look at the sensitive matters that they deal with. It requires extra responsibility then to be really careful about how you broach these matters.
You know, there are two things which stand out. You hear me saying very often that, asking the question, are we remunerating our police force adequately? It's not just a police force, and Eric was right. When you have a package that is considered favorable, you attract a certain type of person for that job. Medicine has prestige to it, and it is known that after you've taken those grueling hours, not staying awake, learning to sleep standing, and all the things that they do, eventually you could go into private practice and you will be able to make some money. That's remuneration for this work that you do. Teachers also do back-breaking work. All they can do is hope that they're in some school where they can conduct tuitions. But beyond that, there's not much. Policemen fall in the same category. All I'm saying is, if you look at countries or places where the police force are paid well, one, as I said, you attract a certain caliber of person, and because of that job, that someone will be unlikely willing to lose their job because they're going to do something silly. But also, you ensure that whatever it is that is supposed to be done, you give an opportunity for it to be done. But the moment, comparatively speaking, what is being paid is considered minuscule, what you've done is you've given someone power, a uniform, and a position to open up their own enterprise. And they're going to be conflict resolution officers. Forget just what the mandate given to them by the government is. No. They will open their own private enterprise where they can solve problems for you.
But I also think it's a responsibility that you take personally when you're entering into a job like this. Because then when is it ever enough? Right? And that's a question that must be asked.
Yep.
You enter into this kind of a profession, there's certain things that you should be ready to deal with.
Actually,
there's certain things that you should be ready to deal with.
That is what we wish.
If we look, sure, but if you look
it doesn't work that way anymore.
If you look at what is being asked of you to do, how many people earn peanuts but do their job the way in which they're supposed to do it? Because you look at something so sensitive and we can't always attribute the poor pay to the poor service that you get.
It contributes significantly. It isn't
but you
the
can't
only
say
reason.
the reason why this is not happening is because somebody is being paid poorly.
Actually,
What about those who are
Another
paid?
reason.
What about those who are paid poorly but still do their job to the letter? The way in which they're supposed to do it.
That category of individual, ask yourself, the options that were available to them, why did they end up with that poorly paid job?
Why did this person end up being a police officer? They could have done something else.
The job.
Exactly. Same with that
That's
other
what
person.
was available.
Same with that other person who wanted a job. It was available. They got to the point where they were true. You could look at it as the other end
Police
of the
officers
spectrum.
city earn more than very many people.
There are many people who
They
earn
do,
less, but they
these
do their
people
job.
don't do what police officers are required to do.
Some of them do other
Like
worse
who,
things.
for instance?
People who work in mortuaries. How much are they paid, morticians?
I'm not sure
All
what
right.
they're
so
paid, but
people
how
also-
do you compare that with the job of a
people who are also in
policeman?
other businesses? It's not. I am not downplaying the fact that yes, police officers put their lives at risk
Daily.
on a daily basis. There are police officers who are out there on the beat and they are completely exposed to all manner of harm. Even now with COVID-19, they're exposed to contracting COVID-19. That is true, and that is one side of the argument. But then there's the other side of the argument that should you do your job with honor?
Should you be paid well for this job
Yes,
that
you
honor is
should.
required of you?
Yes, you should. But because you're not being paid well, does that mean that you should not do your job with honor?
No, it doesn't.
The
But-
ones who are asking for 1,000 shillings from this particular Mr. Momanyi in, where was it again?
It's Mombasa.
It's in Mombasa, right? Asking 1,000 shillings because we've come to your shop and we're saying we wanted to see a bucket of water and soap at the entrance of your shop, and you're telling us about hand sanitizer. We don't think that's what is required, so let's go to the police station. Give us a bribe of 1,000 shillings. Can we justify the 1,000 shillings was because they are not well paid and all that? We can find ways of linking all that, but
Eric, in all these years,
how
we've been
do
doing
we
this.
then
How?
draw the line and say, do your job and do your job well, and at the same time you shall be remunerated. We shall push for your remuneration. And that push has been there from very many, even civil society organizations. Amnesty International, human rights campaigners have pushed for better services for police officers.
Let's imagine
The government
that,
itself, the president has been launching housing and all, and the government has been trying to do something. Well, yeah, it's not enough. But moves are being made towards improving the conditions of the police officers.
But let's imagine that these moves were made and the improvement has taken place. Would we then see a disappearance of these kind of attitudes that we are seeing today? Would we say that if all of these people then, if all of those on the force were being paid in a manner in which was acceptable, they say, finally, I can survive on this, right? Would we see a disappearance of some of these things that we see today?
CT is arguing that you'd get a different caliber of people who would apply for this job.
So all of these people who are currently there
it's a
would be
caliber
moved
problem.
out, would be fired?
Eric has just determined he's my interpreter. He's quoted what I have said, And then,
So
then
these
proceeded
okay.
to
So now let
interpret
me
it.
ask, because
Yeah, that's the
if
implication
that's
of
what
what you're saying.
if that's what we're saying,
Yes,
then
it is. It
if
is
that's what
true,
we're
it is the
saying,
implication.
let's imagine then that everybody gets the money that they think would be great for me to survive. Are we saying that we would never see mediocrity within the police
This
force
argument-
again? We would never see the request for bribes by police officers. We would never see this authoritarian and lord over all attitude that we get from police. It would not happen. Because now they're being paid well, they have the allowances that they need, they're living in, proper housing. We would not see this anymore. It would disappear.
It would be reduced significantly.
I think that originally the job should come from a place of honor and belief in a set of values and beliefs that should then propel you to do your job. That should be the first thing. These other things then come next, regardless of what position you are in.
See, my
That should be the
argument
first
is,
thing.
when you make such demands of people, you must compensate them adequately. That really is my argument. And I'm saying, throw in the teachers in there while you're there and throw in the doctors while you're at it. And why am I saying this? Yes, they're jobs like any other, but in reality, they are not. When you have teachers doing their job, what parents have done, there's a Latin phrase for it, in loco parentis. The teacher is there instead of the parent. It's a responsibility that is second to none. You cannot, what can you compare it with? There's nothing to compare it with. Policemen, you entrust the security of your people to them. Doctors, you entrust the health of your people to them. No one else does these jobs. They don't even crisscross anywhere. So when you argue that these people, given what they do, you should consider prioritizing it. You see, against what backdrop? Against the backdrop of our parliamentarians wanting helicopters to ferry them should they fall sick, hiking their pay and bonuses as they see fit. All manner of ridiculous things that you keep hearing and you wonder, look, against what background? All you are doing is ensuring that people look at that disparity, and that disparity causes a problem. Then you set even worse examples. So what do you think? And then we ask, these same policemen are the same people who are seconded to our parliamentarians and our senior government officials as drivers, as bodyguards. So they get an opportunity to observe firsthand any mischief if it's afoot. Now, all I'm saying is this. A discussion around this must be had. And the salaries, remuneration, what's the
Commission?
SRC.
That one, yes.
Yeah.
They do an excellent job. But all those things that they do end up somewhere where the decisions have to be made for it to be finalized. It is a conversation that must be had seriously. We need to look at these things. Even as we consider paying who and what, it must be. Then you can make all the demands that you want.
Okay. And that argument, we are in complete and total agreement with that argument.
Except?
All right. Except where you start linking that argument to the fact that it is the reason why we have poor service delivery by some sections and bad apples in the police service.
Actually, it contributes significantly. It contributes significantly.
It could contribute, but that should not be the reason. This same argument was given to us by members of parliament when they're hiking their own salaries. They say, you know what, you don't want to be bribed, you don't want to... They
So
use
pay
that
me
argument.
well so that I don't get...
The Kenya Anti-Corruption Commission, when it was being formed from the previous, what was it called before, when it was Harun Mwauz, before it came to Justice Ringera, it was, let's pay Justice Ringera and his team a lot of money so that you completely shield them from being compromised. Same argument has been given. Same argument is given for very many other positions. That, you know what, so that you do not get this person to a position where they are compromised, pay them so well.
Eric, have you heard that argument being made for policemen?
Yes, even for police officers.
And have we seen it being implemented?
Even for police officers, the amount of money that the police officer was earning in 2002 and the amount of money that the police officer is earning today has changed.
It has changed, but it is not enough.
It is never enough.
It can be enough.
What is
Eric, enough is something that can put look at it. Let me give you an example of enough. Enough is this, on a government scale and given the responsibilities that you have, what would you say a police officer on the beat who doesn't, what are they called? Without any rank. Okay? What are the responsibilities? Constable, thank you very much. If I were to put them on a scale and say, within the government service, where would they fit in? Would responsibilities, life in danger? Would they be a clerk? Would they be a cleaner? Would they be someone who makes tea? Where would they be? And I would put them at, say, an assistant secretary. Okay? Given just what they need to do and what is required of them. And I'd say, peg the salary to that. Eric, let me not belabor the point, but if you look at countries where, for instance, like Germany, where they pay their teachers really well, the argument that I'm having holds sway. People marvel at Germany, the schools, the industry, the what have you. Teachers are paid well. So what comes out of the production line of education are these people we keep marveling about and the system we keep marveling about. Because you have people who are well remunerated and you have people who will enjoy doing their job. And the attraction I mentioned, it then attracts a certain type of person to want to do this job. Because the police, if they are paid well, will live in the same neighborhood that everybody else who is in some other government job. They will not be clamoring for housing units, which are nowadays just slightly better than a pigsty. No. Because they have sufficient remuneration. Enough said.
Sufficient remuneration, yes, but at the same time, let's also talk about being honest and doing your job well. We have to find and strike a balance between those two. You've got to do your job the way you there are things, yes, that you will say, and I completely agree with you. I feel it when you see police officers and their housing scheme. You think about police officers who are now taken to, for example, restive places like Capedo. They are killed. I mean, it's a dangerous place. When you're posted there, you know it is close to danger. Police officers who are killed on a regular basis in the northeastern part of the country because of, some IED that was planted by some Al-Shabaab militia. They came in and they planted in a police vehicle just passing. Police officers just die. It's painful. It's painful to actually think that police officers who are serving us would die because of such. And that's why we talk about not just the salary, but their working conditions, even looking at their medical scheme, even looking at their benefits and what the relatives would get in the event that you die while serving. All those things, that's a very good conversation to have. But at the same time, let's bring it to a level where we are saying that should never justify a police officer being angry at you and looking at you and thinking that I can just hold you, arrest you, and put you in and say, I'll take you to court tomorrow.
I agree it shouldn't. But dovetail this into now that thinking with regards, say, to healthcare workers, where even the environment in which the healthcare workers are supposed to function is inadequately facilitated.
Yeah.
Then you have disaster after disaster after disaster, which need not have happened.
Sure, but in this case, you wouldn't, unless I've been mistaken, but do we hear that a healthcare worker, because of the fact, for example, that the conditions under which they're working, they're actually going to say, well, all right, this person needs treatment, and because of the fact that they're not treating me right, because of the fact that they have not provided for me, then I'm going to ignore this person who needs treatment. Or I'm then going to say, my salary was not enough. They said that they were going to promote me, or they said that they were going to increase my salary. So here's an individual who is sick, and I am not going to treat this person, or I'm going to do it in a manner that's, substandard because of that payment. It can't be. We don't hear such things. They still expend their duties as they are required to.
They don't all do that.
Yeah,
because
but
in many public hospitals, for the longest time, the way it works is if you are told it is free, but you will have to end up paying for it. Now,
no, I'm talking about the conduct. I'm talking about the conduct of an individual who is tasked with healthcare. Saying here is somebody who is sick. At that time, when they're dealing with this individual and what they're supposed to do, administer medication, this, that, the other thing, it's not a matter of, okay, I'm not going to do this job because I really don't feel like it, because after all, they've not paid me well, right? Whereas we're looking at the attitude of police and we're saying, okay, we don't really get paid very well, so I'm going to ask for a bribe from this guy. It's going to supplement my budget for the day.
But the jobs, there's a slight difference, really, even if you look at the jobs, okay? Looking after the welfare of the people, I see what you're saying, but consider this, One of the reasons why even doctors allow themselves to go on strike is because they realize the thing they're supposed to do, they can't do. If you are not facilitated adequately with all your skills and all your knowledge, you will not be able to apply it on the people who actually need that help. And somehow it doesn't seem to be understood. Same thinking, same thinking that brings these things to the fore. So cases of people dying, for instance, I am not saying the healthcare workers aren't responsible for that. They don't cause that. No, they don't. No. Their job is sacrificial, and what you're saying is that they should be the example that the police should follow. And I would argue, because there's a selflessness, my goodness, about healthcare workers that not only you admire, you really genuinely admire. However, when that thinking where you don't ensure that they're facilitated adequately takes the fall, then you have a serious problem on your hands. Where did this child trafficking nonsense come from? You will find that there are healthcare workers who are involved in that process because they work in a place where children are born. They know, they understand. Why is it? Because there's money to be made. There's nothing in the stories we've heard that puts the children's life in danger. But what they're doing is wrong. They are committing a crime. So it's not specific to nurses or policemen. It's a malady we have in the country. But there are people who, by virtue of their jobs and their training, are in positions where these things are easier to do simply because. So you think you've sunk to some depths, you acquire new depths. People die as a result of this. And this COVID thing has brought this thing to the fore completely so that you can look and you can see. A decision is made, someone dies. A decision is not made, someone dies, someone who didn't need to die. Now, it's become a national conversation. Doctors have then died because they're on the front line. And this very wherewithal that we are speaking of was simply not there. Simply not there. And you'd think the private hospitals are exempt. They are not. But the public hospitals bear the brunt of it. There are family members who've lost children. I'm not talking about adults. Adults pass away, but children, that's usually a sore point. And their parents who've told us their stories about how it is. This has happened and the pain they felt. Eric, there's something, the story that was told to you.
Yes. One of our listeners, Lawrence, got in touch with me and told me about a friend of his. And then he put me in touch with a friend called Donald. And I was speaking to him yesterday. We were hoping to be able to speak with him this morning. Unfortunately, he's been unavailable. But Donald's story was quite moving. So Donald had a 12-year-old boy. He was a Standard 8 candidate this year. So schools have been ordered reopened, so boy goes back to school in Kisumu. Boy is a very active child, right? He's a very good footballer. In fact, in that school, he's known one of the boys who would be counted on to help the team to win the tournaments. So very active in football. Developed a slight cold. So he was just sneezing. No high temperature, no fever, nothing. He was just sneezing once in a while and then he'd move on. Played football. Following morning goes to shower in the morning just before they go to class. He and his cube mates in the dormitory, because they have 2 double-deckers, so there are 4 in the dorm, the 4 boys, they go to the shower. So he showers, he comes out of the shower cubicle, he falls down, and he can't breathe. Of course, his cube mates come to his aid, and they're trying to help him. They call for support from teachers, so teachers also come to help. Rush the boy to hospital. The boy passed away, unfortunately. 12-year-old boy passed away, tested, he had COVID-19. Now, this story here gets even more sad because the other 3 boys who were in the same cubicle with him have since died. The 2 teachers who came to their aid, they're reportedly in ICU. So you're talking about boy dies, cube mates die, in a span of within 2 weeks, teachers in ICU. When I was speaking with Donald, I could feel the pain. And the pain for him was, this is my only child, the 12-year-old. He says he's a divorcee. This is the only child that he has. He has been living with the boy. He took the child to school. He had to bury his son. Now, the son, he is in Kericho County, and the son was buried in Kisumu County. local authorities could not even allow him to transport the body for burial for some reason. He is so bitter with the school, so bitter with the Ministry of Education for ordering the schools to reopen, so bitter with the county government for what has been done. He's so bitter when he sees politicians sitting down like Raila Odinga yesterday saying, you know what, we must move on with BBI. There'll always be something. What is COVID? There'll always be something. This is what Raila said yesterday. If it's not COVID, it's going to be locusts. If it's not locusts, it's going to be floods. If it's not floods, it's going to be famine. There'll always be something. We cannot stop just because there's COVID. When Donald hears a leader saying something like that, he spoke, he was speaking to me on the phone, you could tell that this man is actually broken. This is what we're dealing with in the country now, and we're saying, oh, there's COVID and there's no COVID. Time for us to take a break on KTN Home, 3 minutes to 8 o'clock. We'll be back shortly. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation, broadcasting on Spice FM, on KTN Home, and online.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 87.9 Spice FM, Mombasa.
So, when we were talking yesterday with Ruben Kigame, and he said, look, I'm asking what our priorities are right now. When we were speaking with Abdullahi Abdi of the Muslim Leadership Forum, and he said, our priorities and where they are right now. When we've been raising the questions about our preparedness and whether we are indeed prepared to handle the rising cases of COVID-19, when you're talking about all this, and then someone like Donald tells you, my 12-year-old son died, and then he tells you, I have 3 other families who are feeling the same thing I'm feeling right now because our children died from COVID-19 related complications. That's when you just step back and you're like, okay, let it be.
It's not a fairy tale, guys. It's reality that we're dealing with.
It is.
And the demands that you continue to make, the conversations that we continue to have, the discussions, the demands that you continue to make are not because you want to make noise, because that's the reality on the ground. It is the reality. There is nothing that you'll be able to tell Donald, for example, and he is going to equate the death of his child, the death of those 3 boys, those additional 3 boys, the sickness of these 2 teachers who are now in ICU. He's going to equate that to poor decision making on the side of a government that had all contrary indications and evidence pointing to a decision that you should have made in the opposite, but you chose not to. The death of this boy, then, is in the hands of that decision.
He's also bitter with the school because apparently since then the school hasn't even closed.
That school should have been closed.
They moved on.
That school should have been closed.
And the story hasn't been told anywhere.
How many other stories
are untold?
There must be many.
Many. Very many. COVID-19 is real, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. In the next hour, let's talk about Fintech. I'll be speaking with the Senior Director at the KCB Bank. Good morning. It's now 8 o'clock.
Spice up your life. 102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Okay, Mombasa Road, still a problem there. We had that accident where 2 children were knocked down this morning. Still waiting for them to be picked up. And now that we see emergency services are on the road trying to help out with that. Thika Road, the jam is starting all the way from Allsops, moving very slowly. Avoid the service lane, especially near Survey, and that's heading towards Pangani if you can avoid that because that's not moving. Stick on the highway, at least for now, and it'll take you where you need it to go. Mombasa Road still, as we see, moving very, very slowly. They're trying to still sort out that accident issue, and hopefully that will be fine. Inbound as well, we do have some problems moving towards the airport, moving very slowly as well. All right, we'll take a look in a short while as to what it all looks like. Tell us also where you might be stuck. The eastern and southern bypass is posing no problems this morning. You can use those to and from Mombasa Road and into Thika Road and into the city centre as well. A longer route, but it'll get you there without too much of a wait. All right, Spice of MKE. That's how you can get to us on Twitter. You can text as well on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation
It's 2.5
Room,
minutes after
the
8.
only
This is
way
Kenya's
to
biggest
start.
conversation, The Situation Room, broadcasting on 94.4 in Nairobi, Mombasa 97.7, Nyeri 90.9, Nakuru is 96.0, 96.7 in Eldoret, 102.5 in Kisumu, 87.9 in Mombasa. For 2 hours every weekday morning, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., we're also live on KTN Home. For the entire 4 hours, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., we live stream the show on Spice FM KE, YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter, as well as www.spicefm.co.ke. So, we'll be launching the BBI signatures tomorrow because life must go on, man. I mean, if it's not one thing, it's the other. If it's not COVID, I mean, it's going to be something else, okay? Some comments on social media?
Sure. I mean, just looking at comments on the police and what is required or expected of them. The Kenya police are irredeemably corrupt. No amount of money or incentive will actually help. My encounter with police made me believe that Niwajinga, and I can't waste my time reasoning, discussing, or having any meaningful discussion with them. For real, my bad experience with police, according to Daniel, makes me celebrate every misfortune that befalls them. I always see them as walking corpses. This is what he has said. Remember, MPs told us if we pay them better, corruption would end. Did it end after paying them better than the US president? That's a question that has come out. And Leonard says, even if you pay them 250,000 shillings, they will go for bribes of 50 shillings. It's more sweet than your salary. How many roadblocks from Nakuru to Kericho? Even 50 shillings they're willing to take.
That sentiment, it's going to take a while, by the way, to change the public perception about the police. But let's begin the RCT with today's proverb.
A lie has many variations. The truth, none.
A lie has very many variations. The truth,
None.
is the truth. You cannot bend the truth.
You can try, but it will remain the truth even if you try to bend it.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about Fintech and financial inclusion in the country. And we'll be joined now by KCB Director of Digital Financial Services, Angela Murigi, to discuss this. So over this period, especially over this period of COVID-19, we've seen the push for people to start thinking just beyond the brick and mortar way of doing things. We talk about people taking their businesses online. We also talk about the way technology has helped very many service providers to reach out to their customers and their customer base. Also, when it comes to the financial services sector, it's the same. Technology has really pushed them and opened up new opportunities and new avenues for them to reach out to their customer base, where you have financial technology services. You can apply for a loan without necessarily getting to meet somebody face to face. You can get your money wired to you without having to interact at all with a human being face to face. Well, you could interact with them by bots and chatting and them calling you or calling them, but you're able to actually access an entire array of financial services, beginning to the end, without necessarily having to meet with that person face to face. This kind of advantages that we see with technology and looking at our financial services sector, do you feel that our financial services sector has actually taken this on completely and utilized it to the fullest? Or are there still some areas where you feel like, especially banks would do better?
Banks can always do better.
I didn't expect a different answer from UCT.
Well, it is a different answer. I'm not frothing at the mouth.
As usually would be.
Another smoke coming from my nostrils.
Not today.
There's a change.
Yes, a significant change. I am saying that if you look at just the business of banking, it is not possible if there are no human beings to interact with. Now, my understanding and my experience is that very many bank decisions do not encourage that interaction. So one doesn't endear one to the services that they offer, and they don't provide an atmosphere in which conflict resolution, like debts which haven't been paid, can be resolved. So you find a situation where the moment someone is unable to pay, a discussion of this is what I'm able to pay doesn't happen, because the relationship is such that the person prefers to take off. And so the default rate increases. Now, banks came up with a solution sometimes back because of COVID to try and mitigate, find ways of getting their customers to find, should we say, a softer landing ground for paying. It was not enough. It's not enough. Not enough in this sense. The banks have rules by which they function, and they try to abide by these things. I'm saying, put on a different hat. Rethink this whole banking thing again, and rethink it in our context. Seriously rethink it, and rethink the conversation you must have with your clients, so that your clients really are your clients, not people who are only good so long as they are repaying what they owe you. And when it comes to a situation where they are unable to, suddenly there are these draconian rules that you levy upon them, and you more or less treat them like criminals.
You've said it. Let's bring in Angela. Angela Murege is the Director of Digital Financial Services at KCB. Good morning, Angela.
Good morning, Eric, Ndo City.
Good morning, Angela.
Good to speak to you this morning, Angela, and welcome to the Situation Room.
Yes, thank you.
So we'll discuss how Fintech has increased financial inclusion in Kenya. And let's first of all start with definitions. What is Fintech?
Yes. So Fintech is giving the choice to enable access to useful financial products, such as credit to communities, like Citi has just mentioned, that's individuals or businesses. So you can find that there are communities who are disenfranchised for one reason or the other, either the level of income they are making, the geographic location. There is all sorts of reasons why people end up disenfranchised, sometimes from mainstream financial services. So then financial inclusion is finding ways around that so that you can add as many people as possible into the ecosystem. Because the more people you add into the ecosystem, no one can actually change their lives without credit. No one can grow or improve their lifestyle, or actually, in fact, grow their businesses without a means of accessing credit or financial services like insurance, savings. There's a whole host of services you need in order for you to be able to improve the nature of the life you live. So financial inclusion is driving that access. It's what we call the 5 A's, making it accessible, meaning it's easy for you to reach it, like if you use the phone or something. It is available, that's self-explanatory. It is affordable. If it is not affordable, then those disenfranchised communities might not be able to join. And then, of course, you have to make it adequate, because it is not enough to give me a credit limit if that credit limit cannot make any kind of difference to my life. You must be aware that it is available. So those are the 5 A's we sort of look at when we say, how do we improve the financial inclusion in our society?
Angela, you gave 4. Accessible, available, affordable, adequate.
And aware.
Oh, aware. That's an A.
Yeah, you must be aware. You cannot use something if you don't know it is there.
All right.
Sure. Angela, you talk about financial inclusion, and are banks responsible solely for this financial inclusion? Because I see very many platforms that were then created, whether you want to look at mobile telephony, whether you want to look at increased access to communication, whether you want to look at the technology that then made it available then for people to communicate from different parts of the country, for example. It would appear to me that then banks saw an opportunity because of the different platforms that were then innovated and created to then come in to do this. So are we seeing banks then improving on financial inclusion, or now bringing it as a sector within which they can play?
Okay, so for you to consider about how these things work is that everything is an ecosystem. Everything works and grows and innovates from a beginning. So the banks in of themselves might not have been able to come up with it initially, or might have started it. If you think about it, what banks have existed for around about the time of the monks in wandering around Rome and giving wax stamps for you to be able to go and cash them out at a different location. So banking as a service has existed in many formats, and maybe not in banks as commercial banks as we think about them today. But the point is that what matters is then how do you innovate so you can improve the reach of those services to people. So mobile telephony has helped us because it is a mass communication tool to expand the reach of financial services. We leverage it because it creates the rails to enable us reach more people, more customers, more users. Now, there's a lot of fintech because this is a partnership of many parts, because even the government is a very major player, if you think about it, because if you don't have government support, rules that support innovation, rules that enable people to be able to access easily, then you will not be able to make much progress. So in my view, you have to look at this not just as a purview of one particular industry, but that's something that we all work towards. Because even small business owners, the people who build the small fintechs, those are people who drive even better access because they can build capability that perhaps an organization like a bank cannot build. If you think about people like Copper, Solar, or the people who do education or medicine, there's lots of areas where it is actually people who take those platforms and then think about how do we expand the reach of these platforms, or how do we innovate for solutions that can make a difference in people's lives.
Okay. So now when we talk about inclusion in all of this, obviously there were some people at some point who would not be able to access services. And then Fintech has graciously brought this about. So how do you see that when previously just the banking services, somebody walks into the bank and now has to have person-to-person contact in order to access. Now with Fintech, that doesn't necessarily need to happen. Do you find that, it's kind of like what CT was saying earlier, do you find that now the way in which you process, or the way in which you then deal with your customers then would change because of the fact that they actually don't really need to come in and see you to access your services?
Yeah, okay. You have to think of it, and I understand what CT was saying, but you have to think about it. When it's a human interaction, you will never get enough scale. Yeah, you won't be able to reach as many people as you can. The intention for us is not so much that we think that banking will necessarily scale down the brick and mortar type branches that you know, but it's that the conversations in those brick and mortar branches will change. So our wish would be that we get people to move transactions, things like cash in, cash out. Let's just go cashless. That's the happy space for all of us. It's expensive to print and make, doesn't help our government to keep having to print and make it. It's also dangerous in this environment. I listened to your conversation earlier, and we need to figure out solutions to make it, to stop the spread of this pandemic. So cashless is one of those ways that or cash light may not be possible to entirely eliminate small payments, but as much as we can, we should do that. But the point I was going to make was that if we can then use the branches for deeper conversations, financial advisory services, you can come in and have a conversation about how to take your business to the next level, how your financial advisor can help you think about how you approach your bookkeeping. Because we always say that some of the challenges that face our SMEs, and yet they make up almost 40% of our GDP, is that we need to figure out how do we help them improve how they function. So we need to think about how to extend the services that we have into just turning our bankers from being people who count paper money to people who actually have conversations with their customers. And fair enough, sometimes difficulties will happen and people will default. That's why the bank has actually restructured 115 billion shillings worth of loans. We have given moratoriums to small SMEs and extended the dates and repayment periods. So I always find, and I think I really should address what the question that Citi raised, is that we must understand it's not that the bank wants to be draconian. It's that it has a responsibility to its shareholders, and so it must figure out how do we balance what our customers need, how do we balance what our society needs, how do we ensure this organization that enables you to leverage an income at this level and for you to grow it to this level based only on the sole trust that you will be able to build your business or that your income will remain stable and you'll be able to grow. That's what leverage is. And the only things that do that are actually banks.
You know, I like the way you've explained it. You see, the disconnect arguably could actually be historical in that there's a history in the manner in which what you are calling brick and mortar banks have handled their affairs. And you are right also when you say that when you look at Fintech as we understand it, as lay people, that there is an ease with which one is able to access credit through these systems. That having been said, you see, there's the responsibility of paying back this money once you've got it. If one doesn't understand or enough time isn't taken to educate, because there seems to be the assumption that when you borrow, you will pay. Yes, some people will pay, but not everyone understands or has inculcated that culture of discipline of paying. But further to that, and I'm bringing it again to the conversation, because even with Fintech, you'll be given a number to call, and so that conversation will take place. You may not see the person, but it will take place. The conversation that is necessary so that people actually understand, first of all, how banks function, how they make their decisions, and what it is they do and why they make the decisions they do. It may seem like it's mundane, but it's absolutely necessary, because there is, in my mind, a clear and great disconnect between what the mwananchi who is looking for money in the bank thinks about the bank and what the bank understands their role is. In my mind, there is usually a disconnect.
Well, true. And that is why there have been a lot of mechanisms that have been tried around the world in different ways to get people to understand what their obligation is. We try to teach people. We do a lot of campaigns to tell people we are trying to improve the nature of the product. You understand, even for us, there is a bit of a learning curve in how to do what we call the mobile lending, the one that enables, the digital lending that enables people to actually borrow on something as simple as your ID. And that's pretty much all the bank is sitting with, the ID number of this person. That's all we got from the government system and maybe from our telco partner. And that's what we are using to gauge whether or not we have effective KYC or know your customer information on this person. And then we give them a credit limit, then they default. And in some cases, when we thought about this, because we have tried quite a number of models now, because we've been doing it since 2015. We've been trying quite a number of models. Is it okay to give really low values? Are they recoverable? If you can enable somebody to pay their fare to town or buy the hawker to buy the goods that he's going to go and sell and repay you by the end of the day, so that tomorrow he can then buy even more. Is this a model that works? Now, the problem, like you say, is that every customer might not, or every Kenyan might not understand. If you don't repay, then you lose the opportunity to ever change your life, because then we have to say that this person doesn't have the discipline to repay. Therefore, we set them aside, and we don't lend them anymore. And that is unfortunate as a decision, because sometimes bad things will happen. You know, I don't want to use the common parlance, but things will go wrong. Yep. So you don't want someone to suffer indefinitely. But actually the rule as it stands, and this is what you're saying about the differences in rules from what banks do, or even the credit institutions we work with, like credit reference bureaus, will give it a 7-year white bar of that person. And it might have been something that was a 3-month issue. And maybe that person should be given another chance to come back. So what we say then is, we try to educate customers, come into the bank, give us more KYC, give us more information about yourself than what we have. Sometimes, I agree with you, where we started from, perhaps banks of old had the whole pristine, very white place that was rather intimidating to your farmer with his boots and red soil, and maybe that is why banks like Equity had a bit of parties when they came in, because they felt more welcoming. Mm-hmm. But I think at the end of the day, things have really evolved. And the onus is also on the customer to think about, what is my obligation? I cannot just take this money and then refuse to pay.
As I hear you speak, then I hear you say that it's very important to have some level of person-to-person interaction between bank and customer. And at the same time, now looking at the advancement of Fintech, where you're reducing the person-to-person interaction, where do we strike the balance? I'm dealing with a bank. I open my account, digitally, and then I've been doing all my transactions digitally. I have not met with any person. I go to this platform that allows me to borrow some money. I borrow some money, and then something happened, like you said. I fell ill, and I was supposed to be repaying, and now I'm not able to repay, and that's it. I have not had any person-to-person interaction with my bank, and the same, because I assume it's a machine. The machine then is also now just forwarding my name to the CRBs and saying, now I'm no longer creditworthy. Yet I have been paying, and I've been a very loyal customer to this bank for a long time. How do we strike this balance?
So we have considered how to resolve that issue, and this is why I said it is very important that people walk into the branch. You don't actually need to know the branch staff or have a personal relationship with any of them. The point is that if you walk into the branch, you improve the information they have on that customer. We do have actually internal lists, what we call the white list, where we actually ignore what we then put in the CRB. And if we have holding your account, we treat the people who we have stronger information about a lot better than the one we have a lot less information about. So perhaps the key is to inform people that walk into the branch, talk. It's Kenyans who work in the branches. It's not strangers. It's our neighbors, our family members, our community members. So we should actually, instead of, my concern is people who just go away and never come back, never try to explain. Actually, most people, when you ask them, if they go and talk to the bank, meaning the bank are sitting in the branch, they can find a solution for you.
Okay.
Let's take a break at this point at 24 minutes after 8. We're speaking with Angela Murigi. She is the Director of Digital Financial Services at KCB, talking about fintech and financial inclusion, and then how fintech has helped financial inclusion in the country. This is allowing more and more people to have access to banking services. This is the conversation we're having now with Angela. Time for a break on Spice FM, on KTN Home and Online. We'll be back shortly. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
It has been a tough year for your business, hasn't it? But you hung in there. You pressed on. You persevered. And now it's time to rise up. It's time to get ready, to get going, to get selling. And Google is here to help you rise up. Get free training and tools to help your businesses adapt and grow online. Visit g.co/Grow Africa to start now.
This week in your Nairobian newspaper, find out what drives mothers to turn against their innocent bundles of joy. Men supporting FGM but seek uncut for Mpango and second wives. Preacher Natasha blasted for showing off in Nigeria. Panty thief denies charge despite being caught on camera. Bahati man accused of touching a woman's butt escapes rape charge. Also, find out why corruption in Europe is just as ugly as it is in Kenya. For these and many more stories, grab a copy of your favorite newspaper, The Nairobian, to make your week an interesting one. The Nairobian. We know where you live.
Spice up your life.
Mostly cloudy conditions in Nairobi, light rain, highs of 26 today. The high will be 24 in Nakuru, currently sunny conditions at 18. Mostly cloudy in Nyeri at 16 degrees, highs of 24 and lows of 13. Partly sunny conditions in Eldoret at 12, going to highs of 24. 28 will be the high in Kisumu today. It's sunny conditions all through at this point. Also sunny in Kakamega at 18. At the moment, we'll go to highs of 28 and lows of 16. Mombasa still enjoying light morning rain at 26. We'll go to highs of 31 and lows of 25. It's mostly sunny in Malindi at 18, going to highs of 27 and lows of 17. And mostly cloudy in Kampala at 21, highs of 26 and lows of 20. Continues to rain in Dar es Salaam at 25, highs of 30 and lows of 25. We're looking at sunny conditions in Johannesburg at 20. 26 the high and lows of 17. We're in Lagos. It continues to rain at 25, highs of 32. It's going to be a warm day and lows of 25. Clear conditions now in Kinshasa. Now that the rain has passed, we will see highs of 30 and lows of 22.
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever.
Okay, so we're still looking at the clog up that is on Mombasa Road this morning, and it's moving very slowly. Then all the way from the SGR, then moving down. It still continues. We also see that some passengers have been delayed on the train this morning, leaving from Syokimau. It was doing very, very well coming from Roiro, but this other end of things have been crazy. Okay, the service lanes on Thika Road this morning is terrible. The service lanes where they're usually your friends Monday to Friday, today, not so much. So stick on the highway at this point if you need to move. Jogo Road is moving very well towards the City Stadium roundabouts, and then as you get into the CBD, you should be fine. Industrial area, a bit of clog up here and there, but it looks okay. So, right in the middle of traffic hours where we are, you get stuck somewhere, let us know. Spice of MKE on Twitter or text on 40127 for alternates that others can use as well.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
The Situation Room, broadcasting on Spice FM, KTN Home, online, Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter, and spicefm.co.ke. This and every weekday morning between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m. you have in the room CT Muga, Nduoko and Eric Latif. Joining us this hour on the line via video link is Angela Murege. She is the Director of Financial Services at KCB. We're talking about Fintech and how it has helped with increasing financial inclusion in the country.
There's something that has been mentioned by our guest, and I like what she said. Go to the branch. Given my chronological reality, that going to the branch instead of fiddling with my phone resonates a lot better. But there's this little detail here. With banking as it is now, you will go to the branch. Let's say you're seeking assistance, but there is also need to ask someone at head office. The decision is made here, it's taken forward. Why I say chronology here, why I bring it into discussion is there was a time when the decision was made at the manager's level. And why is this important? The manager knows you. The people who work there know you. These details that she has mentioned about being known by these people, they do know you. The people at the head office who then crank the numbers and do this don't know you. Whatever is known about you will be written. So that decision that is made is actually not made fully with the full knowledge of who you might be. Yes. What they have is data. And the data is part of you, not entirely you. How do you resolve this?
Angela.
Fair enough. It's true that, and this is why we say that the beauty of digital services is it provides scale. But yes, it is true that a lot of the decisions, especially when it's something substantive, where you're talking about substantive sums of money, then the decision will be made centrally. Because also the same way they know you is the same way you want to avoid creating conflicts of interest. So this is why we tend to make the decision sort of far removed in depending on the size of what we are talking about. In fact, you might find that someone who is actually discussing a lot of money has a lot more deeper relationships within the organization. But that said, the person we are depending on for the information about the customer is that same branch person. The assessment of risk comes from that branch person. So remember that this is not just a question of balancing the risk on whether or not this person has the repayment capability eventually to meet the obligation. So what we try to do is that balance might not always work perfectly, but we try as much as possible to make it as objective and subjective as possible. Subjective because the branch person makes a recommendation. We have a system that is going to look at the data. That is the objective piece. And then, of course, if it then needs to be reviewed by another human being, then it will go through the various processes. The beauty of an organization the size of ours is that there is nothing that is set in stone. There is a lot of people involved in the process, and there is a fair chance that if you feel that the decision that was made did not work for you, there is ways to request again for this decision to be reviewed. That's why we even have a customer experience center that sits at Upper Hill. And I think we've opened at least 2 more around the country, and our intention is to open quite a number of them. The purpose of a customer experience center is to resolve those rather odd issues that can sometimes create complexity for a particular customer, not because perhaps of their situation, but because of the complexity within our organization that is creating that. Because you see, an organization our size must run with rules and regulations that enable it to function in what seems to be a fair manner consistently. But that might not work for every single situation.
Okay.
So that is why we create customer experience centers where people can go and actually outline whatever the challenge is they're experiencing, and then we can go through a more rigorous process of understanding how do we resolve it. Then it is not as straightforward. This is what the system spat out. That is what we are going to do. So we do have a means of resolving. And I think you're right. Perhaps what exists is that people might not be entirely aware of all the options that are available to them. But this is why interviews like this exist. Then I tell them, and a few more people know, and then they'll tell a few others.
Sure. Speaking of then non-traditional ways of doing things, and when it comes to banking, and fintech is one of those. So what then, with all that you've talked about and all that you have seen playing out in the financial space in this country, what then do you think as a financial institution, would you be able to benefit? And then what would people, Kenyans, be able to benefit as you then on piggyback on this fintech?
So you see, the beauty of an organization like ours, it has deep pockets. So what it has done is we bought a very amazing system. We call it the VUMA system. The VUMA system, we are putting out APIs for anyone to be able to integrate, and you can build. It will do for you collections, it will receive payments, it will enable you to take cards, mobile payments, everything, all types of payments. And the beauty of it is that then with those APIs, anyone can innovate, because what usually stops people from doing things is the capital intensity. So the ability to pay for a POS is $600 one. So this might not be practical for every small businessman, but you can do an e-commerce transaction instead. You can actually accept the payment from a card on your computer, on your phone. So we are trying to figure out ways to make things easier and better. We may not be able to directly speak to every single developer out there who wants to be able to integrate to us, hence why we publish open APIs. You see what I mean? So we try to look for ways to improve things. And of course, we are talking with the government to see how do we make small payments digitized? How do we assure people of their data privacy so that they can trust that when they make these payments or collect these payments online as e-payments, they have no cause for concern? Because we know these are some of the issues that maybe are stopping Kenya. You know, Kenya is still a 90% cash economy.
Yeah.
Small payments in Kenya are still done in cash. And this needs to change. It is not safe. It is not cost effective.
When you talk about those APIs, Angela, I cannot just avoid thinking about someone, you know how we call them, the committee guys. Coming up with an API, getting into the VUMA system and being able to also now get to me in a better way. The same way they send me, there's KCB loan here, you've won money there. What safeguards do you have to ensure that then somebody does not just develop something piggybacking on the VUMA system to defraud others, your customers?
here's the thing. I actually tell people that there are two reasons people get defrauded. One, they can be too trusting and give away their own information. We, as much as possible, will try to ensure that those systems are solid and secure, right? But here is the problem. We call it social engineering. When you get a phone call or an SMS and somebody tells you, nilikutumia hizo pesa nitumie, nirudishie, or you know those steps of
tuma kwa hii namba ile ingine ifanye.
Tuma kwa hii namba. Now, the ID on there is actually a phone number. When KCB writes to you, it says it's KCB. When Safaricom writes to you, it says it is Safaricom. So that's what we call social engineering, where they put some really clever people or who are well-spoken, and then they convince people that they're calling from the bank or from the telcos or from reputable organizations. But we have texted our customers so many times to tell them, never give out your PIN. The bank will never ask for your PIN. The bank will never ask for your personal information. So I think where the failure happens is there are people who panic easily. Someone calls you and tells you, well, if you don't give me your PIN, then we'll just have to shut down your account. And you believe this person.
Yep.
Now, the beauty of it is that with time, people are beginning to learn that these are just fraudsters, people sitting in committee or wherever they are sitting and coming up with these bots or writing up and making these fraud cases prevalent. But the more they have done it, the more educated people have gotten.
You say you've
been... I believe now it's much easier. Most people now do not trust when they see those messages or those asks.
There's more awareness. That's true.
Yes, there's a lot more awareness. I mean, we've done a lot. I mean, even the Kenya Bankers Association, KBA, has done a lot of Pinyako, Siriako communication. We've been on radio, we've run ads, we've been on telly, we've told people. So I think that piece is resolved. So fraudsters can't really, it's beginning to get better on the social engineering. We used to have to deal with a lot of them and do a lot of refunds to customers because, of course, the liability would lie with the organization if the system, it was a system failure. But if you gave away all your information, then it is very difficult for us to know whether or not you gave away your information. If the system is solid, and that was not the error, then the obligation becomes a bit difficult.
There are these outstanding, staggeringly outstanding amounts that the banking sector keeps reporting they are owed, and a good portion of this comes from fintechs. How exactly do you as bankers plan to resolve this? How do you as KCB plan to resolve this?
Sorry, outstanding amount?
Owed.
You
bad
mean
debt.
The unpaid debt?
Yeah.
Bad debt.
Deni kubwa kubwa.
Okay, so yes. So it does seem like a lot of money, but this is where the pricing comes in. So your risk-based pricing is supposed to balance between the level of risk you're taking and the amount you know is unlikely to be recovered. Now, as Kenya progresses and we learn who each individual is, that's why I say that there is that whitelist. If someone comes and talks to the bank, then the council can move them from the blacklist into the whitelist. But what's happening is that all our 30, 40 million adult Kenyans, we are going to have them on databases, and the more you misbehave, the more difficult it is to get a digital product to serve you. You have to go and have an actual conversation with a human being. And the actual conversation, you have to explain why it is you did not meet your obligation at the time. So if you were doing it merely to be, you thought that there was no consequences to it. You know, when people are young, they make bad decisions sometimes. That's why it's important. If you look.
Okay, sorry, we have lost connection with Angela Murigi. Let John try and get her back. This is Angela Murigi, the Director of Digital Financial Services at KCB, talking about fintech and financial inclusion. And the question that you're asking is, so we're seeing a lot of bad debt, especially coming now from these digital financial services. There's the issue of trust. There's the issue of how they then assess their risk. And then there's also still the issue of them trying to understand why somebody has defaulted. Because I believe not everybody goes to borrow just thinking I'm gonna
borrow and then
I'm gonna borrow and default. There must be a reason why that has led you to that default. And especially now these short-term loans where you've taken and you're supposed to have repaid within a certain duration of time, which is a short-term. If something happens and it disrupts you, then you're not able to meet that obligation. What happens?
I mean, with COVID consider, even if you're in business, you anticipate that you will make money. It doesn't quite work out that way because the very people who you do business with probably don't have the money to do business. They would be even willing to take goods, but paying becomes a problem. And then before COVID, there was the issue of gambling. It was argued by many people that people who went into fintech borrowing was because on a daily basis they needed to gamble. So if they won a bet, then they were able to repay the loan and yet take another one. But for some people, the fintech loan was just basic survival. It's yes.
And there are many who took such kind of loans. Like, for example, imagine Mr. Momanyi that you read about in the newspaper this morning, who was arrested, was just opening his business. He's arrested, taken to a police station, spends the entire day in the police station.
Yes.
If this gentleman had taken a loan on a mobile platform before opening his shop and he was expected to repay within the next 24 hours, he was not
going to be able to.
So then what happens to such people? Angela is back on the line. Angela, sorry, we lost you.
Yes, apologies for that.
Oh, it's okay. See you, way.
It's the tech.
It is this digital thing.
That's tech that I love.
It's the tech you're fighting for. Angela, before we went off, you were saying something I think is very important here. We're talking about a digital system that then doesn't require you to have face-to-face. At the same time, we've also talked about the fact that things will go wrong, whether you like it or not, by virtue of the fact that they're human beings. Circumstances will arise where, even as you went off, we said, look, it's not everybody who walks into a financial institution and takes out a facility that is saying, I'm taking out this facility with the intention of defaulting. I am deliberately going to not want to pay my loan. Things happen, right? So even with fintech that you've been embraced, where essentially it's a technology that's working with you to be able to continue these financial operations, we're still saying at the same time that a human-to-human relationship with the financial institution is necessary. So then, are we essentially saying that it's not all the way in one direction with the technology, that we are still looking as the financial and banking institutions as almost a marriage between the two, that yes, you use the technology, but at the same time, you still want a relationship with the people that you are essentially serving, and still saying, even if it is a machine speaking to you, we still want you to be able to come in and talk to us.
Absolutely, which is why the branches are still up. You technically could digitize every single banking service, and there are actually digital banks that exist entirely online, and then you can talk to the chatbot. Then once the chatbot can solve your problem, you're then passed on to a human being, because it is expensive to retain a very broad staff contingent. But my point is that in Kenya, we still keep all the branches. The KCB branch network of 200 and some odd 15, I think, branches is still there. All the way to every corner of this country, there is a KCB branch. And the reason that is the case is because we know for a fact that not all our people might be able to access us digitally, but more importantly is that you can come in and talk to us. Remember, what we are trying to digitize today is transactions. Transactions is basic things. You want to use cash. You want to send money somewhere. All these basic you want to make a payment. Those basic ones, you don't need a human being to help you. You can serve yourself. And in fact, then you don't have to worry about the quality of service you received. But if you want to come and talk to someone and you want to have a more substantive conversation, because remember, we hire people, bankers tend to be people who are well educated, and we have to pay dental and optical and whatnot. They are not cheap to maintain. So we want them to have substantive conversations with people. We want them to make a difference in people's lives. So if someone does actually have that problem with the small amount they borrowed, then they come into the branch still and talk to the branch, and the branch will solve that problem for them. So that's why I mentioned that the bank does not only rely on CRB to determine whether or not someone is creditworthy. We do know there are circumstances that are beyond the pale, and therefore we must enable people to be able to come to us, and we still are able to lend them digitally, even if we are not referencing the Credit Reference Bureau anymore. So we do have options. The key to believe is that you must speak to your fellow Kenyans in the branch.
You say you've been running this, like you went full on digital financial services since 2015, right?
Yes. Well, the bank, we've been doing a lot of mobile banking. I think 2015 is when we launched KCB M-Pesa, and that's the one that achieved scale, because now it is with 17 to 20 million Kenyans. But we started, I think 2009 is when we started mobile banking for the organization.
Yep.
So we bought a few systems from India, and then we tried to set up USSD codes and get people, and then we launched an app a few years later, tried to get people to start doing basic transactions for themselves.
Which of these digital platforms do you see getting a more bigger uptake? Well, of course, KCB M-Pesa is one, but what other one do you see people really going for and seeing that they can easily use?
Okay, the way I look at it is is actually use cases. So if you look at the case of India and how India approached it, or even China, how they have approached it, and I love those two because there are over 1 billion people which speaks to. It's just that it's one country as opposed to Africa, which is a continent of over 50 countries with different rules and regulations. But the point is that we have a lot to learn from the way the approach those economies have taken to going cashless. My interest and really what really I would like to see achieved in this country is small payments to move from being paper-based to being system-based. And part of that is a conversation between organizations like ours, the Kenya government, the telcos. It's going to take a lot of effort because this is not a small country, and neither is the region for that matter, but it's for us to be able to make that difference. Some of the laws would need to change. Some of the taxes that we apply on some of these services would need to change. Matatu industry, public service vehicles, that should be digitized, obviously.
Why is there a push for that, Angela, if I may ask? I mean, I can see the logic, but why is there a push to go away from paper, apart from the expense and maybe now the care for the environment and all these beautiful things? Because still people stuck on the tradition, but why is there that push for that, and how then really would it benefit?
And also, apart from the fact that you make money from every transaction.
Well, there's a lot of ways to monetize. We don't actually want to make money from every transaction. Like small payments, in fact, the reason they have had a hard time taking off as to get digitized is because people who are dealing in small payments, your dukas, your matatus, your parking fees, they don't want to pay. Their margins are very tight, so they don't want to pay for the transaction. But this is where an organization like ours comes in, and a platform like ours, where we are very happy to mop up the cash, and then we can monetize that through lending. We don't have to charge for the cash transfers. In fact, if you look at it, and there's been a lot of concessions that have been provided both by the telcos and the Kenya government. Like, for instance, sending below 1,000 shillings doesn't cost you anything now. Loading money into M-Pesa platform doesn't cost any money now. So we are intending actually to make it that even the movement of money, to make a payment, because for us, what we would like to enable is business. So for Buma, our strategy, our view is that from next year, what we are going to be focused on is how do we get small payments onto the platform, and how do we get small payments, because it's a very robust platform and it is able to process a lot of transactions. If we can get people to make payments on this ecosystem, then we don't have to monetize by charging for the transfers. We can monetize by lending this money back to those same businesses.
When you go digital...
So there's lots of options when you think about banks.
Yes. Please go on.
So I was going to say, when you think about banks have a lot of options of ways to make. I can understand how come you would look at it from that it's transfer cost because of how telcos have monetized it. But a bank has very many options. We can take the money and trade it. We can lend it to the same customer base. We have a lot of ways to look at it and say this is how we would turn this around to make it work for Kenyans and remove cash from the ecosystem.
Yes, you do. For the longest time, those who say they have studied economics will tell you that one of the adverse benefits of, if there's such a thing, of technology or of industrialization or mechanism or digitizing, as we are now saying, will ensure that technology replaces human beings. What this means is that people will be unemployed. How exactly do you plan to deal with this? Because with all this tech talk going on, for certain, all the human beings that KCB employs will not be able to fit in because technology will have taken over their jobs.
Actually, no, CP, it will not. Because now, remember, those human beings were only able to serve around 10% of Kenya only was able to do formal banking. And now we are talking about involving a much bigger percentage, 60, 80% of it should be able to access financial services. This doesn't mean that we would actually lose jobs. It means it will be democratizing economics, because it's not that there is a Terminator out there that's going to be created for the AIs. And I do love sci-fi, so this is why my head would instantly go there. But no, people are not going to lose jobs. Actually, it should be easier to create jobs. What we need to do is think about how do you change the skill sets people used to employ. When I was growing up, my mother told me you should either be a teacher, an accountant, a lawyer, doctor. Well, I didn't like blood, so that was never going to happen. So there were limits to what professions you could go for. But now with technology, it's democratizing the reach. You can be living in a little village somewhere, and whatever skill it is you have, you can tell your if you're an entertainer, you can go online and you can get people to pay you. That's why it is so important for us to figure out how do we make it easier for people to collect payments, receive payments. How do we make it cheaper for people to be able to do these things? How do we make it actually almost no cost for them to be able to do these things?
Angela, are you saying KCB will not lay people off as a result of this process that we are discussing so very vigorously?
Technology has done that again.
Technology.
Just
ensured that KCB could not give that information.
All right, 9 minutes to 9 o'clock. This is the Situation Room. We want to say thank you very much to our audience on KTN. There's again tomorrow on Wednesday from 7 to 9. But the conversations continue every weekday morning, and they'll continue on Spice FM 94.4 in Nairobi. Mombasa, it's 87.9, 102.5 in Kisumu, 96.0 Nakuru, 96.7 Eldoret, Nyeri 90.9, and Malindi is 97.7. In the next hour, we talk about how you can get your business online with our Google expert. And then our friend Donald, the one whose story I told you about, the one whose son was a Standard 8 candidate, passed away, and his dorm mates also passed away, will be speaking to us at about 9:20. So you don't want to miss that conversation. Keep it right here. Our audience on KTN Home, Asante Sana. See you tomorrow.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Yep. So the conversation about fintech, I think I got the sense of what she was saying, which was, so what fintech allows them to do is that you don't have to go and build a brick and mortar place everywhere, but you're able to reach more and more people. If you look at the number of people that, for example, KCB is saying through KCB M-Pesa, have been able to reach about 19 million people. Those are many more people. And so the same staff that we have would still be deployed to serve these more people when they need to come to the branches, when they need to go elsewhere. So you'll even open up more branches in other places. This is one way of looking at it. The other thing that she said is, now you need to look at the skill set that's required and to deal with the new ecosystem. So you need to bring in now more people with a specific skill set, but you still need to think about people who understand those basics of banking. So when someone walks into a branch, then they'll be able to explain to them and handle them, and customer support.
You know, when I hear the story of fintech, I cannot remove from my mind the SACCOs that we have, because they are also financial institutions.
Yep.
And for many people, they seem to be financial institutions of choice. Now, they may have problems with the default rates, but their default rates are not as high as banks. I think probably it's because of the way they go about their business and the way they guarantee or indemnify whatever it is that they loan people. The likelihood of them losing money is next to zero, because anytime you borrow from a SACCO, what indemnifies that institution is your money plus other people's money.
Already your deposits plus your guarantors.
So they either which way they're safe. They don't have houses to sell or cars to sell or cows to sell. They don't have that. But why do I bring in SACCOs? You see, SACCOs wouldn't be popular if they did not meet a need that is there. And if that need that they have had been provided for by the banks, then there wouldn't have been any need for SACCOs. Though, on the other hand, one could argue that SACCOs also bank with the banks.
They do.
They do.
They do. But also, SACCO is a whole different story altogether. The savings and credit movement, people pooling together to save so that then you can borrow from this particular pool of saving, and then you understand one another. It's the same kind of thing, the conversation that is happening now about table banking and how people have also adopted table banking and seeing that table banking works for them. Come together, pool money, borrow from one another. You're able to then advance yourselves. All this, there's advance in financial inclusion is actually expanded.
True. See, but the reason is because it's personal people you are members with. But the banks use the same principle. They also accumulate other people's money and other institutions' money. That's what they do as well. Insurance companies do the same thing. I mean, it's a principle that has been known and has been seen to work. So it is understandable that they follow it. But that little twist that they have that gives that personal, that is what now actually makes it work. I am actually for the idea of many competing institutions being available to provide financial assistance to people who need it, because then that competition ensures that each sector works that much harder for the money of these same individuals. And in so doing, it means the individual will likely get better service. Yes.
And even easier and more convenient service. So you can just imagine, for example, things like looking at the various ways of fintech. So you have this particular chatbot, you want something, you just want to inquire. It's some basic information that you don't need to walk into a branch or to make a phone call to a branch to ask, how do I apply for a loan? There's this chatbot, you just ask, how do I apply for a loan? And it has already, the answer is going to be the same. Whether you walk into a branch in Malindi or walk into a branch in Turkana, the answer is going to be the same. This is how you apply. So it makes it very much easier and convenient. The point that also now we also bridge as human beings, because we are used to talking to a human being.
Yeah.
You want your answer to be given by not
not a machine that could be wrong.
That just sent you this, and then you ask, but now I'm in Ruiru, how do I get this? Tells you walk to a certain branch. So
you have to go to the bank anyway. I have to have walked in and seen somebody anyway. I can see the frustration, right?
Yeah. It's the advances of that. So in the next hour, we will talk about how to help your business get online. We've been speaking with Rosemary Mumanyi-Apio. She is the SME lead for East Africa at Google. She's been helping us just to understand how you get your business online. Yesterday, she had 2 hampers to give away. Only one went. So today she has 3 hampers to give away. If you have been following the conversations, just keep it right here, because of the questions that she's going to ask for you. You stand a chance to win these hampers. Number of things that we've learned so far: Google My Business, and how you get Google My Business. Then it helps you also. They give you a one-pager profile, a one-pager website where people can come and see the kind of product or services that you offer. You use Africa 118 and an agency that has partnered with .co/Grow Africa. And this includes now how to get your business, how to expand your market. We use Market Finder, how to use other tools that are available to help you grow, how to also expand your knowledge by training and certification that's offered by Google, how you can even apply for jobs. I mean, you can find jobs that are in your area of interest and you can apply for them. All those things are available. Today, we don't know what kind of questions she's going to be asking, but
I want to ask her a question.
You want to ask her a question?
Yes, I do.
For her to win one of the hampers that she didn't give out
No,
yesterday.
I don't want to win the hamper. I want to know what's in the hamper.
Right. Okay. Keep it right here for that conversation, and also just keep it right here for the conversation. We'll have the conversation about our priorities, COVID-19 in the country, how people are seeing COVID-19, how people are dealing with COVID-19. And hopefully this time we'll be able to reach Donald, who will tell us his personal experience and his story and the journey that he's gone through with losing his son to COVID-19. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room, broadcasting each and every morning on Spice FM. It's now 9 o'clock.
Spice up your life. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, what do we see? So they're working on the road, on Gong Road, and this is now between the Karen Shopping Centre and Gong Road, and so that is affecting traffic as we see it, moving very slowly then higher up on Gong Road, right around the junction. As you get towards the city mortuary roundabout, however, it's okay. Donholm roundabout, outer ring, things are not going too badly. Traffic is flowing very smoothly if you're in that area. Ongata Rongai coming out there, past here and then connecting with Langata Road slowly around the Bomas of Kenya, but then as you move down towards the Timor roundabout, not so bad. It's looking okay. Coming off Thika Road as well, we see the traffic that is on Kiambu Road, so that's going to take you a while. Also survey, the service lanes were not operating at all today, so sticking on the highway was the best course of action. Okay, from Nyeri Stadium roundabout, then all through to Westlands, moving slowly, but it's moving. You're not at a standstill just yet. All right, talk to us if you get stuck. Find a way. Spice of MKE on Twitter or text on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
2.5 minutes after 9, the hound from the dog pound. Okay, CT, let's begin the hour with today's proverb before we go to Google and discuss business.
A lie has many variations, the truth none.
Who is a lie?
The lie. The untruth.
You get what I'm saying? I'm sure you know what. Okay, so a lie has many variations, but the truth
has none. A lie is a lie is a lie. Yeah. The truth is just simply that. The truth
is just that. Truth is just truth. Okay. So we've been talking about how to get your business online. We have 3 hampers to give away today. We have a lot of recapping to do and to see what else we can learn from our Google expert who we've partnered with to help us all understand how we can take advantage of tools that are available online, courtesy of Google, many of them free of charge, and also those that you need to pay. It's very, very affordable. For example, advertising, and how then you can take advantage of the wide array and network that Google has partnered with to get you, it's called what? Pair of eyes. Okay? Rosemary Momanyu is on the line. Good morning.
Good morning, Eric. How are you this morning?
I'm very fine, thank you.
Morning, Du. Morning, City.
Rosemary, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So people are really waiting for these 3 hampers to give away today, but CT has a question for you.
Yes. Please shoot.
Yes, it's actually a really simple question. What the content of the hampers?
Okay. Each one is different, but I can talk about what I'm going to add to the hampers today. If that would be exciting to you to know.
Well, we also have some exciting things to tell you because this thing has raised excitements, and we have something that we had never anticipated would happen, and Ndu will brief you about it.
So Ndu has the answers to today's question.
I have the answers to the questions. The fact that you haven't asked those is just by the way. It doesn't really matter. We have answers already to the questions. So however you want to interpret that is up to you.
So listen to the answer.
Please listen to the answer, then formulate the question. Okay. Are you listening, Rosemary? Okay.
I'm listening.
Okay, so let me give you the answers. Number 1, in fact, one person has 4 answers. Business profile, business insight, customer updates. The answer to the second question, they've assumed you already have a second question, Google search and Google Maps. And then the other answer is be discoverable. And those are answers. Okay?
Now tell us the question.
Wait, there are more answers.
There are more answers.
Yes. Star ratings that boost your appeal, increase traffic and sales, learn more about your business, show up in Google Map searches, and earn trust from customers. Shall I continue? Do you have enough questions for these answers today?
Those are good answers. I love them.
Can I give you more?
Give me more.
2. Now somebody has started with 2. They get an opportunity to advertise their potential customers. They provide the SMEs with relevant and useful information about the market.
Yeah.
There's still more, Rosemary.
Okay. Let's just go to
going.
questions.
I'm not even kidding. They're like 7.
Are you making up some of these things?
Wallahi, I'm not.
It's okay. Let's. Rosemary, what is question number 1?
Today, so we learned yesterday about what tools SMEs can use to then come online. Today, I want to understand if they know how to use those tools once they are online.
Okay.
So question number 1. What platforms do you show up when you have a business profile, when customers are looking for you? There are 2 answers there. What platforms do you show up when you have a business profile, when customers are looking for you?
Okay, that's one question.
That's the first question. Number 2, this is a tricky one, but it's quite interesting. What are the 3 main benefits of having a business profile? The 3 main benefits
of having a business profile.
Exactly.
Okay. 0719-012-600. You can call and answer that question. I know our social media gentleman, Mr. Brian Amulioto, will also be looking out to give one winner. One of the third winner today comes from social media.
Yes. Good. Perfect.
Hi.
And I wanted to just throw in additional things to the hamper today. So we will be offering the winners for today, and also for yesterday as well, we can throw that in, a complimentary 1 month free on Google Ads. So you get 1 month where we'll pay for your first ad campaign up to $100, which is roughly about 11,000 shillings. You just have a business profile, have a business, and we'll offer you 1 month free.
Google, you guys
So
are
we add
nice.
that.
You're so nice.
They're very nice, yeah. So make sure you get those. You need to get those answers. They need to be thorough, correct answers.
All right. Get a calling 0719-012-600. That is, you want this 11 G's worth of advertising for a month on Google platforms, or you also want to get this hamper that has, if you're the one who gets hamper number 1, it has different items from hamper number 3.
Yes.
Okay. Questions again. When people have a business profile, on what 2 Google platforms do you show up when customers are looking for you? So when customers are looking for Eric Latif's what do you call it? Rat race, not rat race. What's it?
Hats, I don't know,
the rat tail hats.
Some nonsense.
And the mongoose tail. On what 2 platforms do you show up? And the 3 main benefits that businesses get when they have Google My Business profiles.
Correct.
Okay.
Those are the 2 questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll be getting the answers to that as we continue with what you'd like to tell us today. But then I have someone already on the line, and this is Brian calling in from Kisumu. Brian, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm fine.
Brian, you run a business?
Yes. I run a business.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Is it online?
For now, it's not online.
Brian Buana. Africa118.co.ke.
Yes.
And you get this profile for free. Anyway, so assuming that you put your business online and you have the Google business profile, on what 2 platforms would you show up?
Because I've just tried. I'm still on the process of making my business online.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so if I'm going on, I'm trying, because it's an hotel, and I'm trying the online business, but in Google Ads. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've been trying it.
Okay. So, Brian, you're not answering any of the questions.
Yes, I may try the second question.
Okay, let's go with the second question. What are the 3 main benefits
of the both business profile? Why I can say it gives you direct access from you to the customer. That's 1. Yes, and the second one, which I can say, it can give you a link from the customer to your main account. And the third answer to the question is that it gives you an easier way to link up the customer through yourself. Let me say it gives you an easier way to link up from your main business account to your customer.
Okay. Mwalimu Rosemary?
Yes,
No,
Mwalimu.
Brian. Unfortunately, Brian, you need to try harder tomorrow and go and study a little bit more.
Brian, let me tell you what we're going to do, okay? So we are going to take your number. We will give your number to the Google partners at Africa 118.
Yes.
They give you a call and they take you through the steps of the simple step of creating your business profile.
Yes.
Correct.
How is that?
That's very good, but I'm tried. Tomorrow is another day.
Yes, try another day.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Brian.
Thank you for trying.
Okay, 0719-012-600. And Rosemary, don't be too strict with these answers. That marking scheme of yours, make it flexible, you know.
Okay.
Please don't listen to Eric.
Today they're so easy. They're so easy today. Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. You want to try one
Any
of the
more?
answers online?
Yes.
Okay, so let's see if these are some of the answers that you might be looking for, Rosemary, if you just hear me. Okay. What was the question again?
Surely.
There's so many answers.
Question number 2. Is someone answering question number 1 or number 2? So question number 1, you have Google My Business profile. And what 2 Google platforms will you show up when someone is looking for you?
Okay, so the answer that I've been given here by Prince Lee is Google Search and Google Maps.
Woohoo! Yeah, that's
Hey.
That's a winner.
That's right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Right
never
there.
relate. Surely.
You have even related.
That's a winner.
You get it right. So Google Search and Google Maps.
Yay.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, are they
Plus
the only 2 platforms, Rosemary?
Yes, they are. They are the only 2 platforms. Search and Maps. Spot on.
Okay.
Well done. Finally.
Very good. So question number 1 gone. Now we have
Number 1.
another answer to look out for. But this one, before you start giving answers and then someone gets it right and then everybody. 0719-012-600. This is the second question. What are the 3 main benefits that businesses get when they have Google My Business profiles? The 3 main benefits that you get when you have the Google My Business profile. What is it? That one, you have to call 0719-012-600. So Rosemary, as we wait for the callers, teach us something.
Okay, good. So we're going to go to our grow.co/Grow Africa Group 2.0 hub. We spent the first few weeks learning about what tools that we can use to help businesses. We just began working on how we can support individuals. We spent some time on Friday learning about the new skills that you can get, a certificate. You can learn coding for free with Grasshopper or with Google Primer. These are 2 apps. You can find a new job by going to this tab that says find a new job and then go through and select the kinds of skills you have and then see what roles are available, and you can apply directly from the website. And and then also you can now, today we're going to learn about how you can learn your life remotely. Okay, so the first thing here is about how to learn the art of home teaching. I think we all understand and appreciate the fact that we have become teachers. As I have a guest right now here with me asking about some support, but as a parent now, if you have kids at home, you have to learn how to be a teacher. And I think we all appreciate the value of our teachers, given the fact that now we've had to flex and be able to multitask and be able to teach young kids. So we help you as a working parent to learn what skills are available to you that you can be able to pick up. So for example, you can be able to learn things like how to use G Suite. You can be able to learn how to use the new Google Classroom that's available for free for teachers. You can learn how to use the new Google Meet features that help support learning and teaching. All these are powerful tools that will help any parent today be able to learn and teach their kids remotely. Specifically for families as well, we also offer tools around how you can get trained on classroom tech. if it's new to you. You can learn about how to set up Chromebooks for home use and what tools Google has available to you as a parent to be able to manage your children's learning skills. So those are all available through the hub. You can scroll through and learn about the various techniques that you can then teach your children. Ultimately, the goal is to empower you as a parent to be able to be equipped to help your kids learn from home. So I'll just pause there and see if there are any answers coming through.
0719-012-600. These are the this is the number to call to answer this question. What are the three main benefits that businesses get when they have Google My Business profile? So just to recap, Rosemary, and so that for people maybe who missed that first lesson, what is Google My Business?
Yeah. It's a free tool that's available to any small business owner to help them create an online presence that allows them to show up on Google Search and Google Maps when customers are looking for them. It gives them a chance to be able to connect with their customers, but most importantly, they get a free one-pager that's available to them to add photos, to be able to drive engagement. Ultimately, they're able then to show up when they're being looked for and be able to continue on the online chat with their customers who are looking for them. So it's a free tool for businesses that helps them have an online presence that they can then link to their current websites, or they can create a one page that comes complementary with the business profile.
Okay, and then how does one get online? How does that one get their profile online?
Yes, so there's two options. The first and the easiest one is just to go to google.africa118.co.ke, click on the link to either receive a phone call back or call them directly. And within 24 hours, they will call you back if you request them to call you back. And they'll walk you through the process by asking you a few questions to confirm that you truly are the business owner and then help you create your profile. You'll then be required to verify the profile and then be able to claim it and then show up online within a few hours.
Okay, so let's see what answers we're getting on social media to this question.
Okay, so the answer to the question, what are the three main benefits businesses get when they have Google My Business profiles? Okay. Star ratings that will boost your appeal, increase traffic and sales, and learn more about your business.
Star ratings that will boost your appeal. That's reviews, right? The other one?
Yeah.
Increase traffic and sales. And then learn more about your business.
People will learn more about your business.
Yeah, that's from Mum Abby.
What do you say to that, Rosemary?
So two of the three are right. One of them is not quite, but I can see how two of them can actually be correct.
Okay.
So do you have any more answers?
I have more answers.
Okay.
Okesh says, benefit number one, show up in Google Map searches. Benefit number two, show up in Google's local 3-pack. And benefit number three, earn trust from customers.
And trust, okay. One of them is correct. The other two are not so close, but we're getting warm.
Do get warmer.
Get warmer.
Okay, so another one. Be discoverable, boost customer confidence, and keep your customers informed.
Okay.
Don't like these answers.
So those are actually quite good.
Rosemary, adjust this marking scheme.
Rosemary, do no such thing. If they want a marking scheme that fits with the answers, perhaps, anyway, I'll leave it there.
It's BBI at times, but we reach a consensus.
This is the consensus.
Or not the answer would be.
Yes, for this particular question, there are specific answers. The other answers are very good.
Before you give another, there's Johnson who's calling from Kaha West. Johnson, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm good, and how are you guys?
We are fine.
We are well, thank you.
So, Johnson, try question number two. The three main benefits that businesses get when you have Google My Business profile.
One, it allows you to appear in maps and local park listings. Number two, allows people to leave reviews of your business.
Right.
And number three, provide insight that gives you helpful information.
Spot on. You got it.
Yeah?
You got it.
That's the answer you were looking for.
it stand out, which is aligned. It is to engage and to get insights. He got all three aligned correctly. Well done.
Well done, Johnson. Well done. Why are you saying wow? You're not sure you get this right.
It's fine.
Johnson, do you have a business?
Yes, I have a business.
Have you created a Google My Business profile?
Yes, I was waiting for confirmation I done my application. I was thought about 14 days or what, something like that.
So you reached out to Africa 118?
I just did on myself. I didn't go via
for the verification.
Yeah.
All right. Rosemary, how long should he wait?
In fact, call today, because what it is, it takes 14 days if you go through the postcard route, which is too long and doesn't work in Africa or in Kenya.
Okay.
So please call, go to google.africa118.co.
Who has now dropped? Okay, there's something happening on the lines today. So Rosemary has dropped. So basically, Johnson, what she was telling you is go to google.africa118.co.ke, speak to the guys at Africa 118. They will be able to sort you out and get your business verified faster than waiting the 14-day route, which is much, much longer. And like he says, is not so good for countries in Africa, because now in Africa we have this partner, Africa 118. So that one, spot on for Johnson. He gets that one correct. But then we still have one more to give away, Rosemary.
We do.
So pick online. This one.
Almost nothing. Everybody, the answers, they're mixing them
Let's
up.
just hear them.
Please, let's hear the mixture of answers.
Okay. So another one then is they get an opportunity to advertise their potential customers. They provide SMEs with relevant and useful information about the market, and they're provided with an opportunity to link with customers. Those are the benefits.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Another one.
Another one.
Okay. So Thomas says you get a business profile. You also then get customer insight, and you show up on Google search and Google Maps.
Yeah, I mean, that's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of your benefits. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's Thomas Thomas.
That's Thomas.
Yes.
So just want to call him Thomas.
Yeah.
Sebastian was on the line and he was just waiting in case Thomas doesn't win. Then Sebastian was going to try. But let's just give Sebastian a chance to try and see. Maybe you're not going to win. Sebastian, how are you?
I'm doing good. Good morning.
Good
morning to you.
Yeah. I want to try the quiz.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Answer. What are the three benefits?
So, the three benefits are, first, will appear in Google Maps when a customer searches for a product, unless you are doing ads, your products will appear on the top in form of a carousel. Yeah.
Carousel.
That is one, yes?
That's one. Then two, we have the reviews. When a customer clicks on your business, he or she will see the reviews. They are the positive and negatives. And another good thing, if your website is included there, they can just click and view everything from the website.
Hey, yes. Rosemary.
Two of the three are correct. You just missed one.
One.
Which is insight. Which is the insight. You got two of the three. Yeah, you get insights about your customer, where they come from, who they are. But you got two of the three correct.
I've answered two only.
Boss,
I want to say the insight. You said my answer.
Yeah, you're ambitious. Huh? Sebastian. Okay, let me just leave this to Rosemary to make the decision.
So do you have a business profile set up for yourself, Sebastian?
Okay, currently I still don't have, because one, I'm working on our website, but currently I have a Facebook page where I do my ads.
Okay.
But you have a business?
Yeah, I have a business.
As
online.
you're working on your website, you can still create the Google My Business profile. And then when your website is live, you will just link the same. You'll add your business link to the same Google My Business profile. But there you'll have put your location, you'll have put your products, you'll get this one pager. Just See, we sort you out on that, Sebastian.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would really appreciate.
Sawa. So, Rosemary will give you a call. Now, the way how you win today is by getting a call directly from the teacher.
Okay.
Yes.
So, Rosemary will give you a call, and then she'll hook you up with the guys at Africa 108, and you'll get your profile up and running within 24 hours.
Okay.
Asante sana. Have a good one.
Asante sana. Hakuna matara.
Rosemary, so tomorrow back to 2 more, 2 or 3?
Yes, tomorrow we have many. We've got many gifts to give, so we've got plenty of questions.
You're like Santa
tomorrow,
Claus. Come early.
Okay, this is it.
Christmas in November.
We are closing November.
Now this is good. Santa Claus has presents, but what about for the reindeer? Do they also get presents?
Are you calling yourself a reindeer?
Yes.
Have a good day, Rosemary. Talk to you tomorrow.
Bye, Rosemary.
Okay, keep it right here. We want to take a look at weather and traffic, and then we will have a conversation with our friend Donald, who will give us his experience.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Spice up your life. They are smart, they are funny, and unfailingly entertaining. They are the adults in the room, and they are here to help you be the best adult you can be.
Just to be very honest with each other here. Not all of us are going to get tall, dark, and handsome. Not all of us are going to get 0.5s or chotaras. Some of us have to learn the short guys. Some of us have to learn those pot-belly people. Some of us have to learn older men or younger men.
Spice.
Don't ask your partner if he or she enjoyed it. I think the approach should always be, if she's enjoyed the journey, she will let you know.
Yeah.
She'll tell you, hey, maze, your bus is big. Mi sijaipanda basi kubwa kama hii. Juu hata hii basi, hiyo mafuta tulieka yote, imetuleta hapa vizuri. Hii basi iko na nguvu. Hii basi iko na nguvu.
Spice.
Now into a relationship, it becomes like you've stopped your life, and then now me, I am your life. You see, like, what happened to your life? What happened to you? What did you used to do?
And women are guilty about that. No,
is your wife listening to the show?
Whether it is matters of the heart, finances, or work that's weighing on your mind, worry not. Spice FM. Spice up your life. The weather with Spice
The sun is peeking
FM.
out in some parts and drizzling in other parts of Nairobi at 19 degrees. We'll see highs of 26 today and lows of 18. The high will be 24 in Nakuru, where it's sunny at 19 at the moment, coming down to lows of 15. Nyeri this morning is mostly cloudy at 18 degrees. We'll see highs of 24 and lows of 13. Partly sunny conditions in Eldoret at 16, highs of 24 and lows of 13. It's mostly sunny in Kisumu at 25. Highs of 28 and lows of 19. Mostly sunny in Kakamega at 23, highs of 28 and lows of 16. And the light rain continues in Mombasa at 27, going to highs of 31 today and lows of 26. 17 will be the low in Malindi, where it's mostly sunny at 24, going to high of 27. Mostly cloudy conditions continue to rule the morning in Kampala. 21, highs of 26 and lows of 20. Dar es Salaam also continues with the rains. At 26, we'll go to highs of 30 and lows of 25. It's sunny in Johannesburg at 22, going to highs of 26 and lows of 17. Lagos still continues to experience rain showers throughout the day. It's looking like what it will be. 32, the high and lows of 25. It's mostly sunny in Kinshasa at 22, highs of 30 and lows of 21. Beijing at 8 is still sunny going into evening. Highs of 8 and lows of -2. Clear conditions in Paris at 6. 9 will be the high, coming down to a low of just 6, and cloudy conditions in London at 12. That'll be the high, we're coming down to lows of 10. And now on to Tuesday morning in New York. It's 7 degrees. The high will be 9 and lows of 5.
Spice up your life.
Okay, so we're still looking at some traffic on Mombasa Road. It's not too bad. In and outbound now, starting to fizzle out. You won't be stuck in that for too much longer. Now, what's causing traffic in Eastleigh this morning? It's the garbage on the road. People are complaining about this. It's causing traffic now because they can't go straight, have to maneuver and meander around it. So that's causing problems and calling on people to come and clear that up. NMS Kenya being asked to sort that one out. NMS for Nairobi. So we're looking at First Avenue, Eastleigh's bringing a lot of traffic then in and outbound just because of this. Okay, coming off of Figure Road, looking much better now. Kiambu Road, not so bad, gotten off of the major traffic that we'd have seen this morning. So we're going to see pockets of traffic throughout the day. Let us know where you might be stuck. Spice of MKE 40127 on text.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Our friend Donald, who shared his story with me yesterday, I was put in touch with him by one of our listeners, Lawrence, who called me a couple of weeks back and told me, you know what, Eric, I'm really, really feeling depressed and so sad and annoyed at the turn of events here. And this is because of what had happened. And I told him, all right, so just go through the motions. Once the burial is over, let's try if we can speak to Donald. I spoke with him yesterday, and he was going to be able to share his story with us this morning. This is what happened to him. So schools reopened as ordered by the government, grade 4, standard 8, form 4. Donald has one child, a son, 12 years old, a standard 8 candidate. They went back to school. Very active, very jovial boy, very good in football. One of the ones who are the stars in the team in this particular school that he was in Kisumu. And he was playing normally. Then he just developed like a cold, a flu, where he was sneezing. Nothing like rising temperatures, nothing like getting joint aches or all these other expected symptoms of COVID-19. Just a sneeze. So he was sneezing for a couple of days. This particular morning, he goes to the bathroom like they do to go and take a shower. He and his 3 cube mates, they are a cube of 4. He and his 3 cube mates go to take a shower, walks out of the shower, and then he just drops down. He's unable to breathe. His classmates rush to his rescue, and they also call out for teachers to come and help. He's rushed to the hospital, goes into the hospital. He's tested for COVID-19. They do x-rays. They see that his his lungs have really, really taken a beating. He passes away a couple of days later. The sad part as well in this story is that his 3 cube mates also fall sick within a couple of days. They're taken to hospital. They pass away. The 2 teachers who had come to their rescue to respond to their cries for help are currently in ICU. And this, speaking with Donald and just hearing the man telling you, look, this is my only child. This is a son who was very much okay. He did not have those symptoms where you could say, there was, the school maybe ignored the symptoms. Didn't have them, but it happened so suddenly. He's gone. 3 other parents are going through the same kind of pain. And they have so much pain and feeling maybe it's the government has let them down by ordering the reopening of schools. The county government has let them down by not ensuring the schools maybe have the protocols in place. The school administration maybe has let them down by not ensuring that there is also the protocols are much in place. And you could just feel he's in that point where he is completely angry with the system, and he is sad that he has lost his child. And he says, no level of talk or anything can bring my child back. But at least I'd like to get a call from the school, from the government. Just call me and tell me, Pole, sorry it happened. We're sorry it happened. And at least see some action being taken to show that there's something that the government is doing to ensure that more and more people are not dying. This is just one case. There are very many other cases of people who say, doctors have come out and spoken with the same kind of emotion at the loss of their colleagues.
Yeah.
people have talked about the same with the loss of their loved ones, in terms of looking for a specific hospital where you can just take them and they get the kind of support that they require. Go and you don't have oxygen. What is it that's happening? Where are our priorities? And are we able then to say, okay, there are very many people actually that even you today, you speak to people and they tell you, yeah, but COVID, but people have been dying. Death is death. People have been dying anyway in the country. This is happening. I mean, this has happened many times before. So what's a big deal? I mean, let's move on with life.
The other question then is that when we're looking at priorities and things like this that are happening, do we then expect the government or the country to drop everything and focus on this and try and make sure that you keep infections at a minimum? That would be the demand.
Not really drop everything, just prioritize.
Put maximum focus on this thing, or do things that would show that you are. So, for example, when you see that there's a heightened number of infections, when you see that there are deaths like this occurring, where 4 boys in one cubicle pass because of COVID, and the only reason why they did is because they went back to school. So are you closing schools? Are you making sure that those schools that have infections are closed? Are you making sure that everything that you need within these institutions, if you're going to open them, are then provided for? For me, that's what you're showing when you're giving priority. You're giving priority by making a decision that will not put children, for example, in harm's way. You're saying that we've seen the rising cases of infections. We've seen the increasing number of deaths. We are not going to go ahead and make a decision like opening schools when you're taking children and throwing them not into the frying pan, directly into the fire. Because before we can, how are we going to know they're in a controlled environment? In that controlled environment, they're getting COVID and they're dying. And these are the ones that have been, every time you see something reported, rest assured that it is not the first time that it has happened. It is not the only occurrence, neither will it be the last. It just happens to have fallen in the bracket of that which is being recorded. So you can be sure that there are others. We already know that we don't know the full number of those who are infected with COVID-19. We already know that we don't know the exact number of those who have died. How many more children could be affected? How many more don't have a platform upon which they can cry out and say, this has actually happened to me? However, we still continue to make the decisions of opening schools and putting them in harm's way. One of the ways in which you can show you're doing something about it and putting this and making it a priority.
Actually, what makes me completely annoyed is the fact that it's the preparedness of our health system to deal with this. All right? I'm sure if we speak to very many people, they'll tell you about the same. There's a story on page 3 of the Standard today, and this is about an MP who had a battle with COVID-19. Let me just give you the story. The story is about Nakuru Town West MP Samuel Arama, who had attended BBI. Remember the BBI meeting for MPs a couple of weeks back?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And by the time he was going for that meeting, he was already feeling a bit as if. He went and did a COVID-19 test, and he was told, all right, so you go, we'll call you with the results. He went to the Great Rift for where the meeting was going to happen, checked into his room, but by the time he was now checking into the room, he was already feeling completely, had shortness of breath. He was experiencing high fever. He had pain in the joints and nausea. So he was unwell. The clinic calls him and tells him, okay, your test has come out positive for COVID-19. What he did then is he informed the Department of Health about his plan to travel to Nairobi for treatment because his fellow MPs were like, boss, and Nairobi, and Nairobi. He was advised by the County Chief Officer of Public Health, Samuel Kengori, to self-isolate in his house, and he would get monitored by medics. Inside the isolation room in his house, he was put on supplemental oxygen, fed through tubes, and doctors were examining him in the morning, afternoon, and night. For the past several weeks, he had kept off the public space because this is what was happening. So you see, his bedroom was transformed into a ward. He was getting supplemental oxygen. He was getting fed through tubes, and the doctors were coming to him morning, noon, and night. Mheshimiwa.
He had more than one room. What happens if someone has one room?
No, how many other cases have you had where actually public or doctors are coming to visit you at home?
I've not heard.
Not just coming to
you're
visit, you're
getting
coming to administer
oxygen.
treatment.
I have not heard.
Yeah.
You
I
are
have actually
getting
not
oxygen, you're getting all these things are happening in your room, in your home.
And these things have a cost element, so it means this person can afford it.
Can afford it. How many are not able to afford? How many would require this and they don't get, and they end up dying? Those deaths that are announced every day by the Ministry of Health.
Not all.
How many of them actually are this kind of people who have died and they require that emergency support, they didn't get it. What conversation are we having? BBI, tomorrow, signatures.
You know, I would really like to understand, for instance, honestly, that given where we are now, this push for the signatures, I'd really like to understand the logic behind it, because I don't understand it at all. Just like I don't understand how it is that we have a genuinely serious problem. Forget the locusts. Forget the floods. Serious issues now, but not as serious as COVID.
Yep.
And yet, everything around me seems to be business as usual. And what do I mean by this? You talk at it, and then you talk some more. But in terms of real progress being made, you now have medics, clinicians, having to wash so that they can reuse the PPEs. And many of the PPEs that we hear of are PPEs that are meant for single use.
Imagine.
We hear of cases where people are washing face masks. Face masks which are meant to be for single use. What on earth is this?
A tweet was posted yesterday by the head of the Lancet Labs, Dr. Ahmed Kalebi. He said, "This is so painful right now. We've just lost our senior colleague, a clinician from Kibra, Dr. Said Omar, formerly of Amref, Kenya. He had contracted COVID-19 at work in Kajiado Hospital. He sent us this photo from the ICU in Nairobi Hospital, literally bidding us farewell."
My goodness. And there are more and more and more and more.
This is what we are having on a daily basis, all right? Doctors are raising these issues on a daily basis and saying, look, we are exposed. Patients are therefore also exposed the same way. But no, we'll always have an issue. If it's not COVID, it's going to be locust. I listened to that statement by Raila Odinga and I was like, okay.
Where are we?
There's being tone deaf and there's being completely tone deaf. And this is where I think Raila is at right now. When he makes such a statement, he could have said something else. He could have chosen to use a different language and say, you know what, guys, yes, at the same time, we're pushing for the government to do this, but let's also see how we can get the signatures going, how we can have the BBI conversation, because it's also something that will help us to sort out something. But saying, there'll always be something, we cannot stop just because you guys are saying there's COVID. There'll always be something. If it's not COVID, it's going to be locust. If it's not locust, it's going to be famine. As if those things really don't matter. You guys can die of floods. You can be killed by hunger with locusts. You
shouldn't be too stressed about
what
this
is
one,
it?
right?
You're now being killed by COVID. If you're not being killed by COVID, you'll be killed by anything else. I need my signatures. What? I was like, okay. Let's open up the conversation. 0719-012-600. Where? I don't even know.
I remember.
Yeah. We're opening up due 2008 post-election violence with jokes.
Remember when we had this conversation with regards to the speech that the president made on Mashujaa Day? Okay. My statement was, who on earth wrote this speech? Who on earth? You see, leaders are supposed to have advisors who can tell them what it is they need to do at the right time.
Yeah.
Okay?
Or the State of the Nation address, actually.
State of the Nation, yes, exactly. And I'm thinking, who are these people who surround these leaders and what do they think they are doing? One could even be a conspiracy theorist completely and say, it's deliberate. So this person can look in a certain way. How many other speeches could have been given that made more sense and resonated? We don't have a catastrophe, my friend. We have a cataclysmic situation in the country. And it's being treated as though, again, it's like locusts happened, and then floods happened.
I mean, there are only how many people died in West Pokot? Just about 60 or so.
And also floods come every year.
So it's just COVID.
No, this This.
If 60 members of parliament died
Two.
in floods,
Don't make it 6. 2.
this whole country would be made to think that we are now
We're
going to
finished.
all die.
We're finished.
60 people from West Pokot, because they're Pokots.
Yes. So it's
But
okay.
if the floods will come. Lydia, good morning.
Good morning. I also would like to say that COVID, now if I cough, they say cough facing the ground. So when the COVID virus falls, after about few minutes it dies by coughing on the ground. Now one day in 2018, I had boarded the bus at land office to get to town. I went to do some work, and a young boy was in the bus already, leaning on the front seat with his mother, maybe, and an auntie and 2 little children. When we got out at Ambassador Hotel, he vomited on another lady walking out of the bus. Few drops fell on my trouser, and I refused to wash it. I hung it out in the sun for 1 month. The guards are telling me, how can you keep your trouser there for 1 month? I said, if I wash it, I'm multiplying the virus. So let it dry completely so that the virus dies, and then I will wash it. So we should not rush to the water for wash this and wash that. We multiply the virus. So just dry it in the sun and then wash it. Even the mask, keep it in the sun, use it again. But don't go without the mask.
Okay, but this hasn't been verified by a doctor, has it?
And also I wanted to say, for many years now, I read about the tea leaves. It's a world-famous herb. So whenever I drink tea, I eat the tea leaves from my cup. If it's in a tea bag.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, I think we've lost Lydia. Matthew in Nakuru, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
Fine, thank you. I'm actually perplexed that a leader like Raila can talk the way he talked, and I've always maintained what was the emergency? Why did Magoa have to? What is the emergency about reopening schools? Listening to that sad story of your friend, it is devastating. That is just one case. Their parents yesterday, Nakuru reported that there are cases of students and teachers getting infected by COVID. What is the emergency? These kids have been in school at home since March. What is the emergency? And then for a leader to say that there'll always be something that will come up. We need to go on with BBI. It is wrong. Who advises these guys? Honestly, I'm pissed off. Honestly, I am pissed off. You have a good day.
By the way, talking about pressure, one of the things that the Ministry of Education was enduring was actually pressure from parents.
Wanting the children to go back.
Yes, so it wasn't, there was a lot of pressure from parents wanting the children to go back to school.
Even now, there's still pressure. You see all these stories that we're talking about now, teenagers being found in very many homes, having house parties and all. Remember from the very beginning, there's one of our callers who used to call from Mombasa, and she'd say, look, these kids, the way they're behaving,
we're going to have a problem.
We're going to have a problem, and we need them back somewhere. Daniel in Kisumu, good morning.
Good morning, Eric Ndu and CT Muga.
Good morning, Daniel.
Yes, it's a bright morning here in Kisumu.
Very good.
And I just want to say that politicians always feast on our ignorance. And COVID issue is a personal responsibility. You remember last time, even Trump, Trump was the president of the United States, where science is best there, the epicenter of science. He said that people can be injected with this sanitizer. So you see, politicians will always have something to say, but I think COVID issue now becomes a personal responsibility, and we should all take care.
That's true. Thank you. Thank you very much, Daniel.
Thank you.
It's not just about, yes, we have very many things that are happening. Uganda is pushing on with an election. Tanzania just had their election. Ghana is doing the same. America has just come out of an election. So the argument that is being proffered, life must continue despite the pandemic. The US has just conducted their election. Tanzania next door had theirs. Uganda is now at the height of election campaigns despite the pandemic. Kenya is no different from all these countries. Life must go on. That's okay. But what are we doing,
Eric,
to improve
the one that you have now?
Yes.
You see, all these things, even the issue of going to schools, when we've talked about at great length in the studios, the issue we point out is, okay, if children need to go to school, tell us about the preparedness. Because we understand how safety measures can be taken. Tell us.
A protocol is published.
Yes. And it's thrown at you.
And the protocol says you must have water. Schools will have water and points. And then
You must have. It's okay.
Yeah.
Must have.
Yep.
Shall. Will not stand.
Well,
and even if you have water, sometimes that water isn't enough. Okay, then how do you ensure social distancing can be done because the school is fairly empty? But tell me, how are you going to ensure that these children are safe because they'll mingle?
But they're clearly not. You know what? Before it was a maybe, let's wait, let's see.
But now we know for sure.
But now we know for sure that they are not. Before, when we had this whole debate and there were temperatures rising there, October, a few days to October 12th before they went back to school, it was all right. They'll be in a controlled environment. They're all right. There'll be no problem. There'll be social distancing. There'll be running water, this, that, and the other thing. We said, okay, let's wait and see. There are few students, they'll be able to maintain social distancing. Children have gone back to school. The few that have gone back to school, they have been infected with COVID-19. Teachers have been infected. Head teachers have died. Protocols have now been birthed saying that teachers over a certain age will not be allowed back in school even when they open. They are dying. Before it was maybe. Now, without a shadow of doubt, you know that there are increasing cases of COVID in the country. You know that there are children who went back to school who got infected and then certain schools had to close down. You know that there are some now who have died. They were at home before they came to school. They got COVID. They died. It's not maybe. It's a fact. It has happened. That was with the few students. Now, if we're talking about priorities and what needs to be done, you show your priority by some kind of action. You still want to throw now 10 million students into this petri dish of disaster. What are we doing? What are we doing? Now it's not even a matter of who doesn't have money to pay school fees, this, that, or the other thing. Children died. Teachers died. Headmasters died. Not got sick and recovered, died. They will not come back. How much more do we need to say? How better do we need to say it so that we realize the potential dangers that there are? But because we want to fill a box, tick a box somewhere, you say, let them just go back to school. We'll deal with the consequences later. Because it's not your child.
There are many things to argue about. In terms of, it all boils down to what plans does the government have for these learners?
Even the school they went to on October 12th, they said they had a plan.
Yeah, whether they're at home, whether they're in school. Because the fact of the matter is that, just like Okiya Mtata said, we run a risk of actually losing an entire generation. If you look at now these twins, the triplets from Tana River, who got pregnant, 16-year-olds, they have now given birth to twins each.
Mm-hmm.
Those girls, their life has been affected. And very many others who have become pregnant during this time, very many others who have now gone into manual labor during this time. Even if schools were reopened, you are not going to have 100% students returning to school. And every day that passes, you're actually running a risk of getting fewer and fewer students reopening schools. Why? Because of what's happening to them right now. When we talk about livelihoods have been lost, those are the same children who have to take care, to have to help, to raise money to feed their families. What plan does the government have in totality, from beginning to end, to take care of this particular generation? Those are the conversations we should be having. What is it that can be done? How do you keep them engaged? How do you keep them? The schools actually have been not just schools, but they are centers and homes for very many children. There are those that go to school to have a square meal, and that's the only source of square meal. Since schools closed, knowing the kind of situation that they had at home before COVID, you can imagine how it is right now. So what is it that the government is doing to address all these issues? And this is the conversation that we should be having, or should we be having a conversation about signatures?
No, I think we should be having that conversation. And just as you say this, I remember another thing that Okia said is that if you then, right, because there's the emotional side of it, which I get sometimes when I say, okay, well, those parents who have to deal with, those getting sick and they didn't plan for it, and then unfortunately those dying, there's a really heart-tugging emotional conversation you have about that. But then if you're saying that government has made a decision to open, what fueled that decision? And I think that's then what we should be looking at. What has fueled that decision? Is there some kind of information that we then are not privy to? Is there something they know that we don't? Is there saying that maybe there'll be a vaccine available soon, so it's okay, go ahead with that? Is there saying that we've seen that, okay, we're ready to lose a number of lives so that we can save the majority? Is there something that's fueling this decision? And that information has to be made public. Everybody has to know the reason why we're saying, go ahead with this. I think so. Talking about signatures, who cares? Who cares whether you have enough signatures when you don't know if people are going to be able to survive tomorrow?
During the discussion to vaccines, why don't you take it to something that things which are available and are readily available, called PPEs? Okay?
Yeah.
We have PPEs. We know what PPEs are supposed to do. We are certain about what they do. And the institutions that have used PPEs for the longest time, it's just simply because of the nature of the work that they do. These aren't new to us. How to use them, what to do, not new. Now look at how that has gone. And then talk to me about vaccines. You imagine that because of vaccines, people will not die. They will.
Maybe just looking at it, the mortality rate of COVID-19 is about 2%. So 2% is not high.
That's what I'm saying. You're ready to sacrifice the 2%.
You fall in that 2%.
If you fall in the 2%, you'll be telling a different story.
You want to tell me if any of these top leaders, if their family members actually got into that 2%, you want to tell me the conversation will be the same?
I doubt very much if it will be. But even more significantly, Eric, the way I'm looking at it, I'm listening, I'm thinking, what irks me is not even what we're discussing. What irks me is the complete disregard. Ndu really highlights this, the complete disregard. There are things you may want to say. Can you not at least take the time and bother to find a way of presenting it so that someone listening finds it acceptable? But when things are said in a certain way, it's not even throwing the baby with the bath water. It's throwing the mother as well. It is something that completely, even if there was any good in the subject here, done, finished, dusted,
gone,
and all because of the way in which it has been presented. We all know life must go on. Surely, we do.
Yeah,
we all know.
I mean, that's what we've been arguing when you're saying reopen the economy.
That's the whole point. It's understandable, but surely. Is it that difficult to actually prevent this thing, which is clearly difficult and an issue on which people have voiced strong opinions? Is it not possible for it to be presented in a way that is at least minimum palatable? So the discussion now takes on, should we say, a softer tone? Because one reads in the papers, you can't have a soft discussion on
what you see.
No, you can't. On what you hear, what you read, you can't.
Let's break for today. Remind us today's proverb, and then we just go home. Tomorrow, maybe something else will have happened.
A lie has many variations. The truth, none.
A lie has very many variations. We shall hire more doctors. We shall increase their allowances.
We shall give them insurance.
Our PPEs, our local capacity has really improved.
We have local.
In fact, we have local capacity.
We have local capacity.
Manufacture here.
We are doing very well financially. We are okay. We are raising a lot of money.
The economy has grown.
The economy is growing.
It's that always gets me. Growing in which direction?
There's only one truth.
There's only one truth.
Yes, we are being lied to.
Yeah, that's the truth. The truth is, this is a lie. Thank you very much for tuning into the Situation Room today. Join us again tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. And we'll have more conversations now until 3, uninterrupted music, sugar and spice and everything nice. And then Monique will be here to take you home on Spice Drive from 3 to 7. 7 to 10 is the adults in the room. Emmanuel, Eric, and Barbara. and then more music, and then Eric, Ndu, and CT will be back here tomorrow morning. It's now 10 o'clock. Have a lovely day.